This meeting is called to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons? Here. Mr. LaValle?
Here.
Mr. Salt?
Here.
Mr. Temby?
Here.
The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Salt. Ms. Mattson, are there any updates to the agenda?
There was one update to the agenda and the board was notified of this.
Members of the board, are there any items you wish to remove from the consent agenda? Are there any items to be added to the agenda? In deference to guest presenters, please consider moving item L1, report of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, CBOC, and item K2, primary textbooks for mathematics grades K through 12, visual arts grades K through 5, Da Vinci Academy Elementary School English Language Arts grades 3 through 5, prior to item I1, annual monitoring report for executive limitations. May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mr. LaValle?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye.
Mr. Temby?
Aye.
All right, tonight is Mrs. Cloninger's quote. She is not here this evening, so I will read for her. Board quote: anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. Fred Rogers, who is, how can you not love Fred Rogers? Thank you, Ms. Cloninger. Ms. Cortez, do we have anyone signed up to speak to the board this evening?
This evening, we have 19 individuals signed up to speak.
Thank you. The board welcomes public comments. In the interest of respecting the time of all who are present, speakers must have signed up to address the board prior to 4 p.m. and they must limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. We also ask for speakers to address the board and not others in the room. All speakers will be notified of the remaining time via the mounted monitors behind the dais. When the time is ended, the microphone will turn off. Supplemental written materials may be given to the security guards who are seated in the hallway outside the boardroom, and they will be delivered to the board secretary. Profanity or any disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated. We greatly value all comments from the public. However, the board will not respond this evening.
Our first speaker this evening is Brooke Sargent Stanley.
Make sure the mic's on. Okay,
Hello,
you're good. Thank you.
I am a math teacher at Pine Creek High School. I am your students' favorite teacher. Many teachers here can say the same. And like many teachers here, I know that every student is unique, and my strength lies in targeting my instruction toward each one personally. I run our peer-assisted math learning lab at Pine Creek and plan my classroom lessons using a combination of existing curriculum, collaboration with other teachers, and activities designed to help each particular group of kids understand math at their level. We have had to get especially creative to meet the added demands of learning loss from the COVID pandemic. And this kind of creativity and differentiation takes time, planning time. I also take time to get to know my students, their data, sure, but also their sports and activities, who they hang out with, what they enjoy outside of school. When they are happy because they got an A on a project or accepted into their choice school, when they've won a game or asked out the boy they've had a crush on, I'm the person they can't wait to tell. And when they are sad, things going on at home, or they just broke up with their boyfriend, or they just need a hug, I'm the one they come to. One student at Pine Creek told me shortly before her graduation that if I hadn't checked in with her and given her a hug that day a year prior, she would have ended her life. By taking the time to talk to her, I showed her that someone cared. People are at the heart of our district, you say. We need to go 6 of 8 for the students, you say. But if I'm too busy to stop and talk to a kid, running from one class to the next, what will be lost? More scheduling flexibility for students is not something anyone has asked for, and if they have, it's been a real low priority, way below teacher satisfaction and effectiveness. More support for students is a legitimate concern, but where does that come from? Teachers with the time to give them that support. What will this schedule do for students in the way of improving teacher-student relationships and meeting their social emotional needs? It is infuriating to me to hear that you think this is about teachers. On one hand, it is. We deserve a livable wage, but effective teachers, teachers who care about their students and plan accordingly, need time to be present for their students. Excellence takes time, and time, as you know, is money.
Our next speaker is Andrea Nagy.
Hi, my name is Andrea Nagy and I live in Black Forest. I raise 3 children in District 20 schools. First of all, I would like to thank the board for the decision to give bonuses to all district teachers and staff. It was great seeing that decision, and it shows the board truly appreciates the educators. I would also like to talk about other issue that is been in my heart recently. I have heard on several news outlets that some schools have promoted and or allowed children to be vaccinated for COVID without parental consent. I would like to ask the board to protect parental rights as much as possible in all areas. Already in California, State Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco introduced a bill that will allow children ages 12 and older to be vaccinated without the consent of the parents. We parents have the natural right to decide the best education of our children. We have the natural right to decide the best upbringing of our children. We have the natural right to decide the best care for our children. We have the natural right to make the best healthcare decisions for our children. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Our next speaker is Ted Brassfield.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like to particularly acknowledge Ms. Collins, Mr. Salt, and Mr. LaValle, as well as their patron, Colorado Springs Forward, whose efforts brought me here today. You've accomplished something incredible. Under your leadership, on January 18th, the district's daily COVID positivity beat last wave's high by about 400%, with 118 more students and staff sick with COVID and needing to isolate. This could only be accomplished by ending the mask mandate, which increased transmission by between 20 and 100%, depending on which study you're looking at, Colorado, Cleveland Clinic, University of Michigan, the CDC, when they compare masked schools to unmasked schools. Yet somehow, since ending the mask requirement, we haven't had a single person who needed to quarantine because of close contact. That's really impressive. I need to pull back the curtain on this. There aren't quarantines because you've defined close contact at 3 feet instead of 6 feet, which is what the CDC says. With the increased caseload from eliminating the mask requirement, you've ensured that school nurses are so overwhelmed that they are, by the time they're able to call parents back, the potential quarantine period has already ended. And you've decided not to alert people of close contacts unless they're elementary school parents. My partner is the mother to 2 children, Mohammed, an immunocompromised student at Chinook Middle, and a student at Rampart. The second week of this semester, A caught COVID at Rampart. We know this because his only interactions are with his family and fellow students, because he cares about the life of his brother. The school nurse didn't call until the 8th day after Al's mom alerted the school of his positivity. And so under your policies, what's really the point? There's no way that you would be able to contact anyone in the 5-day period. Luckily, A was able to isolate and he hadn't already infected his brother, because that's where things would get really scary. Study across 500 medical systems in the United States found that intellectual disability was the strongest risk factor for presenting with a COVID-19 diagnosis. And after age, it was the strongest risk factor for death. UK data from the first and second waves found that those with intellectual disabilities were 5 times more likely to need hospitalization and 8 times more likely to die than people without. But I ask the 3 of you, you really don't care, do you? You're perfectly content for students like Muhammad to risk lifelong complications and death. You're not following the CDC guidelines, you're not engaging in contact tracing, and you've eliminated the mask mandate and social distancing. You've decided that a few extra % of additional cases, students with special needs, that's okay. Let me be clear. You've decided that students like
Our next speaker is Laura Matisik.
Good evening, board. Have you missed me? Mrs. Cons, you've been summoning your so-called freedom fighters to be involved with your agenda. Many are not parents, nor do they live in D20. Your ulterior motives are blatant and do not belong here. You said that you were sick the other week, and this was the reason you weren't at a DAC meeting, even though they've offered them virtually. You have not visited Douglas Elementary or Air Academy High. While they're your schools when you were seated here at this board, the base has a federal mask mandate, so you refused to go. It's clear the role is larger than you anticipated. Mr. Salt, you've made your mission obvious in wanting to defund public schools and push charter schools in the district. I left the charter school my daughter attended because you sat on that board with other corrupt board members touting your extremist desires. I even did a commercial for that school early on, but I know better now. Charter schools know how to market what they sell. You now sit on a public, not charter school board, and I am watching your every move. Let me remind you that no kids have ever died from mass reading books or mask wearing. They have died from mass shootings, a deadly pandemic, which has also damaged their mental health. Maybe you should focus on things that actually matter instead of your conspiracy theories. The Pikes Peak Library Board has no room for someone like you. And remember, a book worth banning is a book worth reading. Mr. LaValle, I thank you for shutting down the ridiculous nonsense that tried to rear its ugly head last time. I applaud you for that, but then you went on to insult every child and family in this district that belongs to the LGBTQ+ community. I was upset by those comments because first graders, and everyone for that matter, need to learn a curriculum that is diverse, inclusive, and equitable. That includes efforts on including Black, Brown, Indigenous, LGBTQ+, because that is the oath you took to sit in that chair. Representation matters. You are a military veteran and commercial pilot. Both the military and United Airlines elevate and encourage DEI, as well as vaccines to safely work and/or serve. You need to be honest about your intentions here. Mr. Temby and Mrs. Cloninger, thank you for being voices of reason on this board. We appreciate you. Mr. Gregory, please don't forget that belonging includes diversity, equity, and inclusion, social emotional learning. Do not cower down to some of these corrupt board members that have a rhetoric that is sometimes with bigoted undertones. You need to condemn that immediately. Teachers, I am sorry that the 6-8 scheduling was approved. Please unionize and ignore the propaganda you hear about PACE because you get what you pay for. People like Claudia Graver and Stacey Adair speak at meetings in support of PACE, but are just conspiracy peddlers. Block out the noise and organize with Pikes Peak Education Association. You deserve better than this. Also, I would really consider the substitutes that we have that are at some of these D20 schools who are completely undermining what our actual teachers are trying to do and subs are trying to do that step in to fill a very difficult role. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. LaValle.
Mr. Salt, go ahead.
I believe the rules for public comment are to address the people on the board and not other individuals. Could you clarify, please?
Yep, and thank you for that clarification. In the future, Feel free to address us as much as you want, but don't address others. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rob Rogers.
Everybody. Mr. LaValle, I was hoping we might have a conversation like for a minute, a one-way conversation, like obviously. I know that we have some differences of opinion politically and about the role of public education in our society, but I've never picked up on anything malicious like from you, and I appreciate that. That's why I don't necessarily think that you're aware of just how hurtful comments from the last board meeting had the potential to be. When statements like, I don't understand why first graders have to learn LGBTQ anything are made, I don't get the feeling there's an understanding that LGBTQ isn't some abstract concept for many of the families in the district. It's very, very real. Gay people exist. First graders in this community and in district schools have gay parents or may even be part of the LGBT community themselves. Students being able to identify themselves and their loved ones in the material they're taught is important for the learning process. Students learning about the contributions of minority communities helps them to be more informed and more accepting, which in turn leads to a more productive society. There's no hidden agenda with curriculum being more diverse. It's just simply a reflection of reality. Just a gentle suggestion, please remember that even though the majority of families and students in the district may have the appearance of being overwhelmingly part of one particular demographic, appearances can be deceiving. And comments about inclusivity and diversity can be direct attacks against district students and parents, which is the exact opposite of building an environment of belonging. I'd also just like to thank the board for providing me with some inspiration for my decision to run for Representative Colorado House District 14. As like was stated earlier, Mr. LaValle, who doesn't love Mr. Rogers?
Our next speaker is Catherine Spencer.
Members of the board, my name is Catherine Spencer, and I'm a resident, teacher, and parent in District 20. First, I would like to thank the board for the recent bonus check. As a single parent of a senior about to start college, I'm at the point where every little bit helps. That check not only reimbursed me for my AEA dues for this year, but it also covered at least one semester of books for her. So thank you for that. I am currently a 6 of 8 high school teacher. And yes, I agree to that because, as I stated, I am a single parent trying to save enough money for my daughter to go to college without taking on exorbitant loans, so the extra 10% pay was a boon to an already struggling family. But over the past 2 days, I decided I wanted to try a work-life experiment. I've spent the last 2 snow days making sure all my grades were done. As of right now, I can confirm my Schoology inbox is empty and all the papers in my bag have been graded with feedback and are ready to return to the students tomorrow. But I have been wondering, how much of my own time outside of my 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. contractual hours do I need to spend to keep up with my load? So for the next 2 weeks, I will keep very careful records of exactly how I spend my time every school day between 7:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. and report back to you at the board meeting on the 17th with what my grading load becomes. I will account for every minute of time during those hours, but I will also take my lunch because even my daughter, who works in fast food, gets a protected dinner time. Over the next 2 weeks, anything that doesn't get done during my work hours, be it grading, lesson planning, entering grades, calling parents, sending or answering emails, writing letters of recommendation, will simply not get done. Over the next 10 work days, I will have 10 planning periods. 3 of them are already scheduled out for department meetings. I think you and I both need to know just how much education today is predicated on teachers voluntarily giving up their non-paid time to make sure the job gets done. What will this district do in the future when we can't hire enough teachers to staff open positions? At least with a 5.5 out of 8 schedule, teachers could choose to take on additional work for additional pay to help fill in the gaps in the master schedule. Math teachers are already nearly impossible to find, much less to keep. Most of the math teachers at my school teach on the overload because they have to in order for the master schedule to work. Unless you increase pay, they will all face a $4,000 to $7,000 a year pay cut to do the same work. And what happens if those math teachers are already at 6 of 8 and we are still short-staffed? Will you make their class sizes larger and therefore negate any benefits touted in Mr. Gregory's letter today? Or will you ask them to teach 7 of 8 for the additional pay? In what other business could you expect to ask workers to do more and yet pay them less? If we don't think outside the box, like businesses are having to do now in order to hire and retain quality employees, all you are doing is creating a short-sighted, short-term solution to a long-term problem. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bernadette Guthrie.
This is a bit of a departure from the comments I have made in the past, but I am here tonight because this is a topic that is very personal to me and my family. Mr. LaValle, at the last board meeting, you made a comment about the new Colorado Social Studies standards and said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't know why a first grader would need LGBTQ language in their social studies curriculum. I'd like for each of you to look at the photo I brought tonight. The little boy on the right is Crosby. He's my son's best friend. Crosby is a D20 kindergartner, which means next year he'll be a first grader. Inclusive language for all grade levels makes kids like Crosby feel a sense of belonging, as he has two moms and is the adopted biracial child of a same-sex couple. In last week's district email, Mr. Gregory discussed the meeting with Kathy Ebel and Maddie Webster from Excel and Ed, who spoke to the group about regional and national trends in student belonging and student voice and explained why these concepts are more important than ever. I'm really struggling with the board members here who seemingly refuse to acknowledge that not all families look the same. There is a major disconnect between the words that come out to parents in emails about DEI initiatives and the words that are spoken in this room once most of the public has left. Please remember Crosby and his little sister Ruby's faces the next time you contemplate why inclusive language matters. To wrap up my comments tonight, I want to express my deep gratitude to the educators in this room. Please know that I stand with you and support and encourage the unionization of our D20 teachers. United you bargain, divided you beg. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Laura Bunnell.
Hi, my name is Laura Bunnell, and I'm a sophomore at Pine Creek High School. Both my older brother and sister have been in the district. Throughout their high school experience, they've met teachers that have had immense impacts on their education and future. Now all those teachers I looked forward to having as well are leaving, and it's due to the 6 of 8 schedule that you plan to implement. My sister's favorite math teacher, who has saved many people, including me, who have struggled with math, is leaving because she can't afford to live here anymore. My brother's favorite history teacher, who led him to a 5 on the AP test, and who he continues to hike with to this day, may have to leave or take an additional job because he can't support his children with the pay cut 6 of 8 will cause. One of my sister's favorite English teachers is leaving. The only physics teacher at my high school plans to leave. One of the best middle school math teachers is quitting. You say that this plan will create more opportunities for students and better the scheduling process. I don't care if I have more scheduling flexibility if all the teachers that I want in my schedule are gone. This is not giving us more opportunities, it's taking them away. Let's speak of this plan truthfully. It won't present us with better education and opportunities like you claim. It only saves the district money. If the district values its budget more than students' education, then I'm embarrassed to be a part of it.
Our next speaker is Audrey Bunnell.
Members of the board, my name is Audrey Bunnell. I'm a high school senior at Pine Creek and the child of a teacher. The district claims that the new 6 of 8 plan will benefit students and provide them with greater opportunities. As one of the aforementioned students in the district, I am certain that this is an absolute ruse and would like to give some perspective as to what students really think of this plan. Having struggled with ADHD throughout my entire high school career and strongly relying on the accommodations of my 504 plan to keep pace with other students, the planning periods of my teachers have been critical to my success. They provide time for me and other students struggling with learning disabilities to receive extended time on tests, ask for extra help, and speak privately to teachers about our struggles with learning. By forcing teachers to give up a planning period and teach an extra class, this plan takes many of those opportunities away from students in need. In fact, the loss of planning periods will make teacher availability so cramped and that it will be virtually impossible to continue Pine Creek's Pal Lab. I served as a peer tutor for this program last semester and speak from experience when I say that Pal Lab was an absolute lifeline for students, especially considering the loss of mathematical learning sustained throughout the pandemic. It would be nothing short of disgraceful to lose it. Not only that, more classes mean more mountains of papers to grade and less time for teachers to devote to activities that actually matter to students. I founded an award-winning Model United Nations Club this year that has represented not only this district, but the entire Southern Colorado region as the only competitor south of the Denver area at our latest event. I am extremely concerned for my club's future in District 20, as the new 6 of 8 plan and the corresponding increase in workload will make it incredibly undesirable for teachers to sponsor extracurricular activities outside of school. Yet another loss of opportunity that students will suffer as a result of this plan. I, for one, am thankful to be graduating at the end of this semester so that I do not have to witness this district implement a plan that chokes teachers with massive volumes of work and pitiful salaries. Throughout my 8 years in District 20, I have seen that being a single income teacher here is virtually a financial death sentence. Apparently, the school board intends to make it a death sentence in terms of teacher workload too. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Annette Veronis. No, Annette? Okay, we'll move on. Next is Carrie Fox. No. Oh, there's Carrie. Okay, that's okay.
Oh, got stuck in the snow. Good evening. I appreciate the statement to high school teachers providing some clarity surrounding the change in work duties for them. The problem is it did not really outline a win-win-win situation, and that needs to happen for teachers this year. There has to be a win-win-win, a win for the district, a win for students, and a win for teachers. Clearly, it's a win for the district by scheduling every teacher for one more class, every 12 sections. You don't need another teacher. So I'm going to assume that FTE requirements for high schools are going to go down. That's full-time employees. You outlined some benefits for students, and I would like to ask the board to make those official. If you're going to say that it's lower class sizes, put a board policy in place that caps class sizes, because otherwise it won't happen. It'll happen for a while until the population grows or until more teachers are available. Right now, there's not teachers available. We have 30 open positions for teachers right now in our district. We cannot fill them. We can't. There are not teachers available. This is a perk for high school teachers, and unless it's a win-win-win, it's a struggle. We're taking away 153-ish hours of planning period over the course of a year. That's a lot of time that people will invest after school. And I know they'll invest it after school because I teach middle school and I invest it after school, right? I already teach 6 of 8. And I know that the teaching load between elementary and middle school and high school is different. And there are different intellectual requirements when you're grading. There's different strains and different amounts of time needed. Give those teachers the time to do the good job, or put those policies in place. Put a class cap policy in place. Put a policy in place about how FTE is calculated, because that's a mystery. It's not in board policy, right? Put a policy in place about how many preps a teacher can have, right? If you're killing teachers where they have 6 different classes that they have to teach, where they're prepping 6 different things, that's serious. But you can do something and make it a win-win-win. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Heather Bunnell.
Hello, I'm Heather Bonnell, and I'm a resident teacher and parent in D20. Mr. Gregory, you sent an email today confirming the move for 6 of 8 for next year, which we did appreciate. And you state that this change is what is best for students. You wrote students need increased support and expanded options to reach their potential, progress successfully towards graduation, and ultimately reach their hopes and dreams. Students already take 8 courses a semester, so this change for teachers to 6 of 8 changes nothing for students without further board policy changes. We have been told that the change has nothing to do with budget, just the buzzwords, it is best for kids. So as your letter asks for suggestions, I would like to suggest the following board policy changes to all of you. Set the maximum class size at the middle and high school levels to 25, no exceptions, not even PE. If you do not set a policy as such, then class sizes will increase over the next few years until we are back at 30 plus per class. If the class size is set at 28, as it currently is, counselors can do and override that in order to place more kids. I've had AP classes with 35 plus. Keep FTE where it is or even increase it. Increasing every teacher's load to 6 of 8 means that for every 12 high school teachers, you could reduce by 1 full teacher, which would save you in salary, benefits, and para. I urge you to not reduce the number of employees and continue to hire to replace people as they leave, or else the class sizes will have to increase again. Protect planning periods. If we have the professional development Wednesdays next year, then there is no reason for IEP, 504 appointments, department meetings, or other PLCs to occur during the school day. Write a policy to protect a little bit of time we have during the day to do our jobs. Cap the number of preps per teacher to 2 or 3. Most teachers have 3 preps now. More than that becomes untenable, and teachers who try it will tell you it can't be done well. Apply an across-the-board pay raise of 10% to teachers and classified staff. Currently, overload pay is 10%, and if the change is really not about money, then make sure we know that. Our last move from 5 of 7 to 5.5 out of 8 was given the same sales pitch. Increased opportunities for students. Anecdotally, along with this change to course load, we have seen a decrease in mental health and resiliency of our high achieving students as the stress level of added courses took hold. Rather than taking advantage of study halls or more fun electives, students signed up for more rigorous courses, sometimes surpassing a college load. Letters were sent from former graduates asking us to address the climb higher mentality, and yet we keep adding more to everyone. If we want to be a district of excellence, we need to evaluate how these changes have actually affected both teachers and students. We've been down this road before. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Catherine Zukas.
Hi, I'm Catherine Chukas. I'm a resident of the district and have children who attend D20 schools. I had the opportunity because of the chaos today to be out on snowshoes on my side of town because our streets aren't really plowed. So I got to follow the deer tracks in my neighborhood, which are really narrow cross-country ski tracks. It's kind of interesting how those animals do that throughout my neighborhood. It was challenging to get out of my neighborhood today when the sun was going down. I think it's going to be challenging to get into my neighborhood as the sun is going up tomorrow morning. That'll be interesting for the buses that need to go up into Oak Hills. So anyway, I'm here to talk about a few agenda items later tonight. They're probably going to be after I leave because I still need to go pick up a kid. But these agenda items are about calendar and about some things on the other business. I'm seeing a proposal for the 2024-2025 calendar year. My children will still be in the district at that time. I understand that it's set based upon hourly contact time, and that's going to then calibrate to number of days. And I'm wondering if we can really clearly communicate in the PDFs that go out about the end of year date. For all parents who are new to the district, and there's going to be many, this tentative last day of school is very odd for us. There's many ways you guys can solve that. Maybe you do a countdown clock based on hours. Maybe you do a date by which you decide. Maybe you put a range in there, but footnotes would help on those PDFs for all of us. Typically, again, in the past 9 years in the district, the first May meeting of the board is the date that you decide the end of school date. But now you're thinking about canceling the first date because you want to attend high school graduations. So you'll be moving your May meeting to May 12th. Again, that's really late. May 12th to decide to communicate the end of year date this year would be terrible. Working parents need more time. End of year activities at the middle and elementary school need more time to know what the end of school date is. And service providers need more time. whether these are ones that employ students once school is out or provide students with activities. The other item I did want to get to as well is about, in your other business, is about EL 2.2 and the treatment of students, item number 11. That the superintendent will not, absent emergency situations, allow students to be subjected to medical treatments, medical opinions, or medical advice without parental or guardian consent. I'd like to see this taken off right now until it can be amended in some way. I'd like to see the consent form that parents need to sign, and I will be the first to sign that consent form to be put in place. And I will make sure, I'd like to make sure that there's a flag so that my children can have any medical treatment, medical opinion, or medical advice from staff. I'd like a big green flag on Infinite Campus. They need adults who are in the school buildings to provide them with medical advice. They need, when somebody's doing something gross in the lunchroom, to be told that that's a medical problem. They need somebody who can understand their feelings and physical development and talk to.
Our next speaker is Bree Mallory.
Hello, my name's Bree Mallory. I am a teacher in the district at Pine Creek, a mother of 4 District 20 students, and a resident. Today's email regarding next year's plan to redefine what a full-time teacher is as requiring teachers to teach more without compensation because it is best for students begs the question, am I a full-time teacher this year? I can tell you I am more than a full-time teacher. I get to school at 7:15 every morning to prepare my classes and provide office hours. I am greeted each morning by students, sometimes for tutoring, sometimes for homework help, and sometimes for them just to come discuss something they are struggling with in their lives. I teach bell to bell to ensure I am using every moment I have with them to help them be successful in my class. I never sit down at my desk. I walk around to make sure each student has the opportunity to ask me questions and get help as needed. I provide my students with instant feedback every day so they can be successful. During my plan time, I go to 504 meetings, IEP meetings, collaboration meetings, respond to parent emails, write letters of recommendation, send positive parent contact emails, meet with students, grade papers, and if I'm lucky, I get to plan my lessons. At lunch, I try to take a quick break, but I always feel like I am rushing to eat and pee before I have to go back to my classroom. After school, I stay in my classroom until 3:30 p.m. to provide office hours for my students. I hold study sessions, help students prepare to retake quizzes and tests, and do homework with students that need extra help. What I am describing is just what happens during a school day. I still have to grade and plan at home at night and on weekends to keep up with everything. When COVID began, I spent the entire spring break making videos of my teaching math to ensure my students would still learn. That summer, I did the same thing because I knew there was a chance it would be online again. Sometimes my daughter will just sit in the office with me just to be near me while I'm working. My oldest son told me he wished that I wasn't working because I was a stay-at-home mom in between teaching and coming back to teaching because he said I'm always stressed out. Sorry. So there are 2 things you can't say to me. You cannot tell me I am not a full-time teacher, and you cannot tell me that I am not already doing what is best for students. When I returned to work, I reminded my husband of my attitude towards teaching. I will not do it unless I am all in and I am able to do what is best for my students. It is just the way I'm wired. I want to be a teacher I want my kids to have. I am telling you now, this slap in the face of requiring teachers to work more without compensation is going to push great teachers away. Many are already talking about what they will have to cut out to be able to do it all. I won't cut anything out because I cannot do that in good conscience, but I will quit if I cannot handle it all. Please rethink your stance and come up with a way to support your teachers so my kids have teachers that will teach them and prepare them for college, not just go through the motions.
Our next speaker is Joe Powell.
My name is Joe Powell. I'm a teacher at Pine Creek High School. As was pointed out earlier, the email that came out today confirming the 6 of 8 schedule for teachers next year as what's best for students, but is it really? Students already take 8 courses per semester, so this change for teachers to 6 of 8 changes nothing for the students without further board policy changes. Currently, students need 50 credits to graduate. Under the 7-period system, they earned 56 credits in 4 years, which didn't allow for much flexibility in their schedules if they needed to retake classes due to failure. Under the 8-period schedule, students can earn 64 credits in 4 years. So at the end of their junior year, students can have 48 of the 50 credits required to graduate. This means students only need to take English their senior year. For the past several years, I have seen students take more and more partials, study halls, and TAs to fill holes in their schedules. This is frustrating to me, as I have tried to expand the business and journalism courses at my school. I have students who would rather be my TA than take my class, because kids aren't stupid. They don't want to do more work than they have to. So aside from the super driven high achievers who will always overload themselves, most kids take the easiest schedule they can. GPA-driven students will not take non-weighted classes because they do not want to take the hit to their GPA. So the expectation that more kids will take the passion classes that they want is a fallacy. Double blocking classes without giving students more credit for these classes will kill the very programs that you're trying to expand. Adding a lab requirement to a course without increasing science graduation requirements means those courses will never fill up. We don't routinely run classes with small numbers. It's taken 6 years for me to be able to offer accounting because of reported low enrollment numbers. I finally had a full class of 33 this fall. I taught 7 of 8 last semester with 5 preps, and 6 of 8 this semester with 5 preps. And I have class caps of 35 in order to expand my programs, because I believe what we offer is good for students, and I want as many students as possible to be able to participate. So please don't misunderstand me. I don't mind hard work. I just want to be paid for it.
Our next speaker is Christy Simpson.
Hi there. My name is Christy Simpson. I have 3 children in District 20. I am here to say how thankful I am that this current school board values the important fact that parents, over anyone else, know what is best for our children's education, our children's health, and our children's mental health. I'm so impressed with this statement from the board that were in the board packet. The Board of Education of Academy District 20 believes that parents are the authority over their students and should be consulted for all medical decisions and discussions. Administrative policies exist to limit the teaching of controversial material to our students. The district administration and staff are encouraged to discuss medical issues with parents, but should not discuss medical issues with students. My own 7th grader was diagnosed last year with an extremely life-threatening autoimmune disease. If my son was able to get vaccinated on a school campus without my consent, none of the nurses administering this shot would know about his life-threatening condition and therefore any possible side effects that could happen with mRNA gene-altering chemicals being injected into his body. This could put his body into crisis, and they would not know about the emergency injection that he would need immediately. And I'm sure many of us have heard of the 2 Littleton High School students whose story was published in national news last week, who on January 21st were approved to get vaccinated without parental consent at a clinic in the public school campus of Heritage High School. Tri-County Health told the school district that the state of Colorado does not require those under 18 to be accompanied by a parent or guardian when receiving a COVID vaccine, even though every single children's hospital in Colorado does have this requirement. 6 days after these videos went viral, Littleton Public Schools ended their program to host vaccine clinics in any of the school campuses. So I'm thankful that our very own D20 school district is willing to protect our children with this proactive addition to student policy, when the actual state of Colorado is not willing to do so. Thank you, school board members, for validating parents and acknowledging that we are the best advocates for our children.
Our next speaker is Amy Verduft.
Hi, my name is Amy Verduft, and I'm reading a letter from Christy Nelson. She couldn't be here tonight. I have devoted over half of my life to Academy School District 20. As a student, volunteer, student teacher, and teacher, I have worked to contribute to the success of this district. I am proud to say that I am a product of the excellence D20 provides. Graduating from Air Academy more than prepared me to succeed in what came next. I finished my BA in 3 years, my master's in 1, and came right back here to serve. Over 15 years as a teacher in D20, I have put in countless work, sacrificing my personal and family time as an educator to provide for my students what was provided for me, a superior education in a caring environment. Each year, my AP Stats students far surpass the national average on the AP exam and attain some of the highest scores in the district. However, it seems the more I give, the more is taken. First, the high school teacher load was increased from 5 to 5.5 and teachers worked harder. Then came the pandemic and teachers worked even harder. At the height of the difficulty, a different stats teacher resigned, and instead of hiring a new teacher or letting me take over her class and leaving the groups of students intact, her students were divided between my sections and the teachers at another high school, giving us 2 teachers a much higher workload with no additional pay. These students were in a different place in the curriculum, so I was teaching students learning 2 different curriculums, the same periods for multiple class periods. This was the most stressed I've ever been as a teacher, yet I did not back off for those students. 100% of the new students I gained who took the AP test passed that exam, and I have no doubt it was due largely to the seriousness which I took my responsibility for those students. That extra that was given to me without thought from the decision makers completely sapped my energy and strength in a way from which I am still recovering. Teachers do not have the stamina that it takes to do something like this every year for the rest of their career. These decisions that are being made about schedules are made by people they do not impact. The 6 of 8 change is one more way of taking more and giving nothing. Wearing down teachers will deteriorate the education of excellence that District 20 is so proud of. Something has to give, and if it's not teachers physically leaving the district, it will be mentally checking out, because adding more work and disregarding the toll it takes on teachers is not sustainable. The excellence we are proud of was established by teachers that had time to plan, grade, and care. Teachers who provide for my success as a student did so with workload of 5 classes. The 6/8 schedule calls more harm than good. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christian Saunders.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for hearing me out tonight. My name is Christiane Saunders. I'm one of the math teachers in District 20. I'm here to address the letter that we received today regarding the 6 of 8 schedule for next year. First of all, I am very thankful that your primary objective at the district level is to care for our students. In regards to making sure that our kids are given the best that we have to offer, then we're very much on the same page. I appreciate that. I understand that this policy change has been on the table for the past few years. In fact, we have been pushing back on this for the past few years. We do appreciate that you heard us for the first 2 years and ask that you please hear us again. I'd like to address 2 major concerns that I have tonight. First, many of us already work or have worked 6 of 8, 6.5 of 8, or 7 of 8. So it's definitely not an unwillingness to work that brought us here tonight. We love our kids. I mean, we work tirelessly on their behalf. With the change of policy, you are therefore rewarding us with a significant pay cut. You stated in your letter that the policy change is no longer based on budgetary concerns. Okay, well, it may not be of a monetary concern for you, but this cut in pay is a major budget concern for us. We can barely afford our jobs as it is. So this is the last straw for many of us. We'd like to stay, but we can no longer afford to. Second, your letter stated that as we implement a system that is focused on doing what is best for our students, you are convinced that we can find a balance for what is best for teachers also. Flexibility, creativity, and taking a balanced approach to finding solutions is essential. I'm afraid that many teachers don't trust the district anymore in this regard. A promise to be creative is essentially a promise from our perspective that you do nothing. Like I said, we are not unwilling to work, but we would like to know and see tangibly that we are valued for the professionals that we are. With the 6 of 8 change in policy, you have already lost and will continue to lose some of your best teachers. As it turns out, this is actually counterproductive to your stated goal of taking care of our District 20 students. Please stop to consider that this is just one more policy contributing to an unsustainable model for valuing and retaining your workforce. I grew up in District 20. I am a product of District 20, Foothills Elementary School, Eagle View Middle School, Air Academy High School. I love working here and being a part of the community, and I may not be able to stay anymore. And please consider creating an environment that allows me to stay.
Our final speaker for the evening is John Frederick.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Dear board members and Superintendent Tom Gregory, I first really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for that bonus check we got a few weeks ago as a teacher of 3 college kids. I teach an overload, I run a Spanish NHS, and I coach a top high school soccer program that maximizes my pay. I have chosen to do all these things for D20 because I love my job, not for the money. I have teased that they will need to drag me out before I retire. I've been teaching for 27 years now. My family income has taken a hit this year, and I may be doing these things now for the money. So thank you for the check. Everything does help. With that said, I'm extremely disappointed that the district that shouts students first does not recognize the value in teachers. I have heard the right words, but I have not been witness to the board putting their money where their mouth is. The same reasons we went 5 out of 7 to 5.5 out of 8 years ago are being used by Dr. Gregory in his letter, including a promise that this was not going to lead to 6 out of 8. Now we are here. You are telling us that we are going to teach 6 out of 8. Did these changes not work before? Why are we trying them again? Does a teacher workload factor into any of this? Does a teacher's mental health affect students at all? Does a stressed out, tired, overworked, undervalued, and underpaid teacher mean anything to student achievement? Are you really saying that a teacher is less valuable than the reasons listed in the letter? What do you remember of your time in school? Was it the options you had or the teachers you had? I cannot be a teacher that I want to be with these changes. I barely felt compatible for 25 years plus of teaching just to get through COVID. I thought if I just got through this, I could get back to teach and to why I teach. Now we're going back to adding more to teachers and disguising it as good for students. I assure you that no amount of options for students will replace my passion, my energy, and my love for my students. The love will always be there, but I am losing the energy, which in turn slowly takes the passion away. Our superintendent, whom I respect tremendously, said the change is, I quote, not driven by budget pressures or planned staff reductions. If that is the case, then put your money where your mouth is and increase our pay by 10%. We already are one of the lowest districts in teacher pay in the state. Where else would an employee be happy with a pay cut or be asked to work for more for less? Is there a single high school teacher out there that is for this change? I don't mean being indifferent about it. I mean supportive of a 6-8 schedule. You say you hear us, but do you? Really, do you? Actions do speak louder than words. Please keep this from happening or increase our salaries to reflect the extra work you're asking us to do. I was proud to be a teacher in D20, and I'm beginning to be a bit embarrassed now. I hope you do what is best for teachers, which research will tell you what is best for.
That concludes our speakers for this evening.
Okay, thank you all for speaking. Begin with Colonel Sullivan. I believe he's online. He's not. Okay. Ms. Cons.
Thank you, Mr. LaValle.
So I had several meetings and tours at several schools over the last few weeks, and everything I saw made me even more proud to be part of this D20 community. Just mind-blowing what all of our schools specialize in and accomplish with our students. So it was super exciting. Some of the highlights that I feel extremely blessed for my own 8th grader, along with probably several hundred other more Mountain Ridge kiddos get to experience next year, is Rampart, through their AVID program, the advancement via individual determination, is starting a early colleges program with our class of 2026. So the kiddos that are coming into 9th grade. And it's a dream as a parent for all the parents that were there at that meeting to have this opportunity for free dual credit through UCCS. So, I mean, amazing kudos to Mr. Alvarez and I think Mr. Smith and everyone who's putting this together, because it's extraordinary for all of these kids at Rampart to have this connection. One of the biggest things they sold it on is connection to a teacher for 4 straight years. And I think that's what sold our daughter more than anything, because she absolutely counts on those teacher relationships. I was telling Mr. Gregory, she was not happy about the snow days because she loves to be at school every single day. So super excited and proud, humbled that our district is advancing this AVID program. Also got to go to all my schools with Dr. Field, and thank goodness a day before the snow hit last week. So a couple highlights, even though they were all just amazing, and it's just super exciting to be around kiddos. Ranch Creek Elementary School Spanish Immersion Program and Academy International's French Immersion Program. So a lot of you probably do know. I knew in theory that we had these programs, but to see them in action with their homeroom teachers teaching them in French or Spanish the whole day was just extraordinary for these 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds to be getting to have this opportunity. So really thrilled for that. And then I have known friends, children who have gone through Aspen Valley, but to be exposed to all the Aspen Valley offers, I heard, I voiced that it's a model for all of our high school seniors, and I heard that because of their low numbers, it might not be doable at some of our other high schools, but the requirement for volunteer hours, work hours, college credits through Aspen Valley, I just think they are doing an amazing job over there, and I'm really proud of all those kids for accomplishing that. So those are some of my highlights that make me proud to be part of this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cons. Mr. Salt.
Thank you, Mr. LaValle. I had the extreme privilege to go and visit choice nights at 3 of my schools over the past 2 weeks. Went to Liberty High School, and they put on a heck of a show. They pulled out all the stops. They had all their jazz choir, their jazz band, dance teams. I mean, everything. They're definitely trying to bribe people to attend. But it was a lot of fun. So I appreciate Mr. Timmig letting me come out and enjoy what they had to offer there. Also went visited Academy Endeavor and Explorer Elementaries. I will say, Ms. Cortez, I promoted Our People segment at Academy Endeavor. They have a teacher there who's doing phenomenal work, and so I told Ms. Hanson to make sure that she put that in. So she was, I don't know if she did, but she said she was going to look at it. Also, they had at Academy Endeavor, they had their students do the tours around the school for choice night. And so it was a lot of fun watching these 4th and 5th graders come up and introduce themselves to the adults and parents walking in and walking them around as tour guides around the school. They had a lot of school spirit, and it was just a blast to see. So those were the school kind of tours and visits that I did with the choice night. Looking forward to going to Timberview this next week. But aside from that, I also had the privilege and frankly, it was a lot of fun for me to join both you, Mr. LaValle, and Mr. Timby at the work session that we had with CEI on belonging and student voice. So that was a lot of fun getting to interact with teachers and staff and parents from across the district come in and really talk about what that means to us in our district. And we had some great conversations around that from lots of different perspectives from lots of different schools, and had a lot of fun. So I appreciate the invite, Mr. Gregory, for us to be able to come and join you for that. Thank you.
Mr. Temby.
Great. Thanks again for public comment tonight, and I was particularly impressed by the eloquence of the Bunnell children. So thank you for being here tonight. So as many of you know, we feature schools during a spotlight program that we have before board meetings, and unfortunately we had to cancel 3 of them tonight, where 3 of our schools were going to feature something from their schools, and it's always a highlight coming into this meeting on a high from those meetings. So I'm disappointed that the weather preempted those tonight. As Mr. Salt said, attended with Mr. LaValle the DEI, the strategic planning belonging section, the student section, and it was valuable to hear some of the voices that we heard during that program, and it's interwoven with a bigger plan, and the student voice is incredibly important to how we move forward. I'll be reporting a little bit later tonight on attending the National School Boards Association Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C. with Ms. Thompson, and we'll have a little bit more amplification of that later. And I hope to get back in my schools next week without weather stepping in the way. So thank you.
So I just wanted to say that the strategic planning meeting was really, thank you, Mr. Greger, for inviting us. I appreciate that. And I wanted to just publicly thank all those who volunteer their time to help make this great district even better. And it really was just great to see a lot of parents there, of course, teachers, administrators, and I appreciate that. I was able to visit my 4 elementary schools that I'm assigned to last week: Chinook Trail, Frontier, High Plains, and Mountain View. I sort of needed a kid fix. It was great to see all the kiddos learning. And one of the things that I was impressed with is how the principals, how they talked about targeting individual students for any learning losses, and how they are trying to get those kids and help bring them up to speed. And I just was really impressed with that. I visited, this was, I believe, a Chinook Trail. I visited, I think it was a 3rd grade class, and they took pictures of all the kids, and then they put them in this software to make them look really old. He said, well, Mr. LaValle, would you like to do that? And do you have the picture, Andy? So that's me. The problem is I don't look much different. And I told him, I said, well, clearly the software needs to be fixed because I look just the same. So, but anyways, it was kind of fun. Please take that down. Thank you. And I also appreciate the staff at the EAC. I don't think a lot of people understand that the quote admin people up here, and they are admin, but sometimes they jump in and cover. When I was at Chinook Trail, there was Andy Ruskin teaching kindergarten, and so I thought that was pretty neat, and I really appreciate that. So just thanks to all of those that help, and I know that she's not the only one that does that. You know, a lot of people have been covering, and this is kind of for the board, but as Mr. Temby said, we lost 3 spotlights tonight between years of service awards before one of our meetings, Bridges graduation, and parent-teacher conferences. I believe we only have 2 more board meetings where we can actually have spotlights. So that expect that we're going to have 3. We just, what can we do? So expect that we'll have to be here at 4:45. We get to see 3 schools, but some of the schools are going to have to get pushed back till next year. It's just a function of what happened. All right. Mr. Gregory.
Yes, thank you, Mr. LaValle. We have an introduction this evening, so Mr. Smart, please. I think you have to hold on a second.
Oh, is this not on?
Yeah.
Do I need to use my gym voice? Okay. Okay. I'm pleased this evening to introduce the individual recommended for administrative position. The candidate met all school district prerequisites. The candidate also completed our rigorous process for achieving this recommendation, including paper screening, pre-screening interviews, preliminary interviews, final interviews, professional and reference checks. And we are delighted that many applicants showed interest in this position, and I want to thank the many support staff and administrators who took the time from their other obligations to participate throughout the various parts of this interview process. You may recognize the person that I'm going to introduce to you tonight. I am pleased to introduce Brian Cortez, who is being recommended as the Assistant Director for Budget and Finance. And Brian is joined this evening by his wife, Allison Cortez. Well, she has to be here anyway, so, but I'm sure she would have come. Brian holds a Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting and a Master's of Science in Accounting, both from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. Any Texas Tech people? No, okay, just check. Brian started his career in Texas and served as a tax consultant, analyst, and accountant. Upon moving to Colorado Springs, he served as a manager at Roan CPA Group and tax manager at Stockman, Cast, Ryan and Company. Brian served as the accounting and budget analyst for the building fund for nearly 2 years, then 2 years as the accounting and budget analyst in the finance office, and almost 2 years as the director for budget and finance in District 20. For the past 6 months, Brian has served District 11 as their chief business and operational services, chief of business operational services. And we are pleased to present Brian to you tonight for the position of Assistant Director of Budget and Finance. Brian, would you like to come up and say anything? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. I wanted to thank the Board of Education and Mr. Gregory. This is something that I'm very excited about. Really a pleasure to have this opportunity. Thanks to Ms. Allen and Ms. Kathy Watts, the leaders in the finance team. They are both doing a great job, even in my absence. I know that things continued to just surge along, so I'm excited to come back in and really become integrated with the team again. Especially want to thank my wife, Allison. I was reminded that I did not thank her the last time I was here. She is my support system, and she, encourages me and helped me as I was thinking about coming back. Just thinking about, the reasons why I wanted to be back in District 20, people, the work, and the culture. And to talk about the culture a little bit, just tonight, there's people that I haven't seen in a number of months coming up, hugging me, welcoming me with open arms. I mean, I think that's the culture that I missed, and I'm really excited to be back and have this opportunity. So thank you all very much, and all smiles tonight, but I know there's a lot of work to be done, so I'm ready to hit the ground running. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smart, and Mr. Cortez. I can't let this chance go by. I would say welcome home, back. 4 Rampart High School students were featured this week in this week's Gazette edition as fashion icons. They were not only interviewed, but also participated in a mini photo shoot. They showed off high school fashion. I guess you'd call it today's high school fashion. That includes bell-bottom jeans, leather blazers, sweater vests, and paper bag pants. If you missed it, certainly go to our website, and there's a link to see it there. But it's very interesting. It's coming from somebody who was a long time ago that I was in high school. Many thanks to our human resources team who took time out of their schedules to introduce students to a crash course on the job interview session. Our teacher cadets participated in real life interviews with members of our human resources team. So thank you for making time for our students and giving them valuable hands-on experience. Kudos, Mr. Smart. Congratulations to swimmer Julia Thomas, a Discovery Canyon Campus High School senior. She was named KOAA's Athlete of the Week. Her competitive spirit and love of the water is helping the team rule the pool. DCC's girls swim team is currently top-ranked team in the 3A division, and they show no signs of slowing down. On Martin Luther King Day, students from Chinook Trail Elementary School were hard at work. With help from the school's PTA and the local YMCA, students decorated placemats and snack bags, and made Valentine's Day cards for residents of Mountain Shadows Nursing Home. In Martin Luther King Jr.'s honor, these students wanted to serve their community just as he did. If you're looking for some Friday night fun, look no further than Pine Creek High School tomorrow evening. During tomorrow's varsity basketball games, the boys and girls teams are both collecting lightly used clothing, unused toiletries, and school supplies for The Hangar, which is an organization powered through CASA. The Hangar provides opportunities for foster teens to shop for clothing and accessories free of charge. The girls' varsity basketball game begins at 5:30 tomorrow evening, and the boys' game begins at 7. Please attend if you can and donate. Lastly, I want to recognize 6 high schools, essentially be all of the 6 comprehensive high schools in District 20, for being named Safe Sports Schools by the National Athletic Trainers Association, a distinction achieved through a partnership, and this is lots of thanks to Dr. Smith, but our partnership with UC Health. The award recognizes schools that have met the recommended standards to improve safety in sports and reinforces the importance of providing the best level of care, injury prevention, and medical treatment. The schools that received the 3-year designation are Air Academy High School, Discovery Canyon High School, Liberty High School, Pine Creek High School, Rampart High School, and the Classical Academy. So essentially all of our comprehensive high schools. The National Athletic Trainers Association created the Safe Sports School Award to recognize and champion schools nationwide that are committed to enhancing safety in sports and that hold themselves to best practices and policies that ensure a high standard of athletic care. Congratulations to our trainers, coaches, and athletes for this award. Thank you, Mr. LaValle. That is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. We need a motion to approve the following resolutions. Resolution 36-22, approval of matters relating to administrative staff license. Resolution 37-22, approval of matters relating to administrative staff classified. Resolution 38-22, approval of matters relating to staff specialist staff. Resolution 39-22, approval of matters relating to licensed staff teachers. Resolution 40-22, approval of matters relating to licensed staff, licensed support / special services provider. Resolution 41-22, approval of matters relating to classified staff. Resolutions 42-22 through 121-22, approval of resolution for completed intent not to renew teacher contract. Resolutions 122-22 through 127-22, approval of resolution for completed intent not to renew SSP contract. Resolution 128-22, approval of extra pay positions assignments 2021-2022 school year, and approval of the Board of Education regular meeting minutes from January 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mr. LaValle?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye.
Mr. Temby?
Aye.
And there are no items pulled from the consent agenda. I'll just mention that there are 54 attendees online, which is quite a high number. And we're going to take a 5-minute break.
I gotta go to the restroom. Go, all in. Yeah. I'm enjoying this. Good. Yeah, you know, I still just said you. I know. That's the means. Correct. You're not gonna allow everything. That's a lot of times. Yes. So I was saying is I got internet TV. Because in one year right now, why is it not? I would assume he would. No, I haven't texted him about it yet. Give it time to settle that. Right. He was on the high after. He was like. you. Tom Eagley, that was a great one.
All right, let's get. Let us jump. Andy. Oh, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, we're going to get started. Testing. Here we go. Yeah, we're going to get started. If everybody could take a seat, please. Okay. We will move to items that were moved earlier in this meeting, and we'll begin with item L1, report of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, also known as CBOC. Mr. Brockway, I saw you earlier. Welcome.
Not yet? Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you. Hello, I'm David Brockway, the co-facilitator of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Our group was formed after the voters in 2016 approved a $230 million bond issuance with proceeds that are restricted to capital projects in our district, to include building new schools, renovating and adding to existing ones, as well as improving technology infrastructure in our district. Our group is briefed periodically by building fund employees as to the progress on these projects, and in turn, we provide briefings to you, the Board of Education. Our group recently met on January 19th at the Bond Fund office at the EAC on in person and on Microsoft Teams. Our meeting was led by Mr. Chris Garnhart, who briefed us on the financial activities for the 3 months ending January 15, 2022. We're pleased to welcome Heather Cloninger back to our group as our new board liaison. Most of you will remember that prior to Heather's election to the Board of Education, she was the co-facilitator of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Heather's historic knowledge and insight to this group is certainly welcome to us. The November 15 Bond Building Fund report had a decrease of $596,000 of expenditures and encumbrances as compared to October 15th. That's kind of an oddity to have a decrease, but what that reflected was a credit of $665,000 for a drainage fee reimbursement at Legacy Peak Elementary. At the inception of the Legacy Peak project, approximately $1 million of drainage fees were paid from project appropriations, with the understanding the applicable drainage fee reimbursements would come back to the district as other development occurred around Legacy Peak, housing development and other things too. At least that's what Chief Financial Officer Gregory explained to me at the time when those monies were expended. So it's good to see that happen. For the December 15 bond building fund report, we noted that expenditures and encumbrances increased by approximately $14.7 million. Much of this is related to the district pool at Pine Creek project, which was $11.4 million of it, and the district stadium at Pine Creek, which was $3.2 million. These projects are expected to start in March of this year. And for the January 15 building fund report, we noted there were expenditures and encumbrances of approximately $3.6 million. Much of this related to the facilities audit projects. Most of this was roofing that was done around the district, including several schools, Eagle View, Discovery Canyon, Foothills Elementary, Air Academy High School, Mountain View Elementary, Pine Creek High School, and Ranch Creek Elementary all got improvements made to their roof. As of January 15th, it's noted that approximately $22 million of building funds remain out of the original $230 million, about $22 million that remain. And of that amount, approximately $2.5 million resides in the BOE contingency fund. This appears to be adequate to cover potential cost overruns in the remaining projects that are in the building fund. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 27, and I'll brief the Board of Education soon after that. Thank you very much and would welcome any questions.
Mr. Temby.
This may be more of a question for Chris, but with supply chain issues, other things, how are you doing on timing, Chris, with many of these projects here?
Right now, we're in pretty good shape. I think when I did my update to the board, last board meeting, I talked about the chiller. There's about a 6-month lead time for the EAC. And then I think later this evening, there's a resolution to appropriate some dollars for the boiler replacement project at Prairie Hills Elementary. The boiler lead time's a lot less, and we would expect that we could achieve that this summer. But as far as other materials and stuff, we're seeing longer lead times, but they're consistent. But we're in pretty good shape for what we're doing this summer.
How are the contractors doing with labor needs right now? Which I know is
they're struggling, but all good contractors will only take on the amount of work that they can accomplish with the labor that they have. And we have some very good contractors that we'll be working for. So I'm pretty confident with that.
Great, Chris. Thank you, David. David, thank you.
Mr. Salt.
Thank you. In the presentation, I saw that the network switches were still up to be installed. I was going to ask when those are going to be installed, and it wasn't very specific about where they were. It said kind of across the district, and so I was curious if that was going in all facilities, kind of where those were being installed.
Okay, no, thank you. To my knowledge of it, network switches were intentionally put toward the tail end of the bond fund projects so that they wouldn't become obsolete or outdated as quickly. So that was kind of a delay on that. Mr. Garnhart, you can probably speak more to where they're being installed. I don't think I have that knowledge, so.
Yeah, Mr. Salt, the core network switches are in the main data center, which is located here in the EAC, and we'll do that at the very end of the bond, just so we can retain or get the most out of the existing switches, the most life cycle out of them. As far as the work in the schools, the wiring, the cabling, file servers, that kind of stuff, that's all been taken care of in the schools to date.
Thank you.
Ms. Cons.
I just wanted to thank you both again, because just extraordinary work, staying on budget and just the scope of what you're doing for all the schools is wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, 22 million, and we have basically the pool, and I'll call it Pine Creek Stadium. I don't know if that's the right term. The stadium at Pine Creek, what? Second District Stadium at Pine Creek. Thank you. Yes. Mr. Brockway, thank you. Yeah, thank you again. The only question I had, and it's kind of minor, I was just curious. I know at Doug Valley Elementary, I remember that they put some windows, replaced some windows and not others. Is that what you're doing? I noticed you're spending some more money at Doug Valley. Is that more replacing more windows? Do you know?
I think that's more roofing.
Yeah.
But again, I'll let
Okay.
Chris
I was
address
just
that.
curious.
Good.
We do have a contract to replace a portion of the roof at Douglas Valley this summer. It's over the office and the gym, basically. And we are looking at replacing additional windows at Douglas Valley. There's one line item in the facilities audit area that talks about door and window replacement, and our focus is on Douglas Valley at this time. We haven't developed that scope of work quite yet, but that's our intention.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions or?
No, we're
On
good.
to the next
Thank you
item. Okay,
again.
Thank you all very much. Take care.
Next is item K2, primary textbooks for mathematics grades K through 12, visual arts grades K through 5, the Da Vinci Academy Elementary School English Language Arts grades 3 through 5. Mr. Gregory.
Ms. Killingsworth, please. Dr. Field. Team.
Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure to introduce Tacey Killingsworth, our Director for Curriculum and Instruction.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to share with you a little bit about the process for our instructional materials review textbook approval process. So this process is really governed by two of the administrative policies, IIAC, which is the review standards implementation review process, and then IIACR2, which is the selection of materials process. So we have two levels that this can be done at, the district level and then the school level, which you're witnessing tonight, if you will. So the district, I'll explain that process, and it is just emulated at the school level, if you can imagine, just on a smaller scale. So at the district level, we review each content every 5 years, and that's in our administrative policy. And the reason we do that is a couple reasons, really. CDE also reviews standards on a cycle, and so we want to make sure that all of our staff are teaching to the most current standards. And you may remember that in 2020 there was a huge review of all standards, and some of the standards were impacted less, but like science was a huge shift in what we had previously taught. So that's one reason. And then the second reason is that we want to make sure our staff has the most efficient and effective tools and resources to teach those standards in an aligned way. So that's why we review it every 5 years, each content. So a little bit about the process at the district level is we gather together representatives, teacher representatives from all of our schools. And so I have 3 teacher on special assignment tonight. Karen Shoei is here representing the elementary process, Brian Thompson, the middle school process, and then Tiffany Cotterman could not be here tonight, but she leads the high school process. And so they pull together a group of teachers, and our goal is to get teachers from every school as well as every grade and content as we review these resources. And when they bring them together, they really do 2 things. They do a standards audit as they're reviewing the instructional materials, and then they complete the expert panel review form, which you saw in your 365-page packet. And so what happens is the teachers, as they walk through each resource, they look at which standards are being covered. They have a document that they document that information on, and then they also look at the different areas that are on that expert panel review. So they look excuse me, at suitability, they look at content, strategies, and 21st century skills. And then what happens is, so the other thing is we try to have multiple groups review each of the resources so that we have different perspectives and different eyes on those resources. And so then what they do is my team will pull all of those expert panel reviews and put those numbers on a spreadsheet to help us see the average overall and have discussion with the whole group then, which resources, met our expectations and which resources didn't. And that's how we get them to the level for proposal for you to review and consider for adoption. As you know, there's no textbook that's going to teach 100% of all standards at every grade level. So when we look across the board, like for elementary K through 5, There might be some grade levels that are a little bit stronger in meeting standards and some that are not. And what happens is our teachers do not rely on one textbook to teach all standards. They also use a variety of supplemental resources. So primary resources that you approve are really for teaching standards more than 25% of the time over the course of the course at the high school or the year at the elementary level. So once that is done, we then put those books and resources out for a public review for 2 weeks, as you see. Also in your packet, we had a lot of people come in and review this time, more than ever since I've been here. And so they get to look at the resources and provide comments and submit those to you as well. Those comments this year came from parents, they came from administrators, they came from teachers, community members. It was a wide variety around those. And then I know one other question that you might be interested in is our teachers reviewed way more resources than they put forward for your approval. So for example, our elementary, they were interested in 7 different resources. 2 of those ended up being just a copyright update, which we handle at the district level when there's not a lot of changes to a resource that's already been approved, that it's just a newer copyright. They eliminated 1 resource and then 4 are moving forward. At the middle school level, they started with 9 and they eliminated 5 of those and are only putting forward 4. And high school, they reviewed a lot. So just examples, Algebra 1, they started with 8 resources and they're only moving 3 forward. So they really do an intensive look at the resources to ensure we put the best textbooks and materials in front of our students and our teachers. And then the school level is the exact same process, just on a much smaller scale, obviously, because they have fewer teachers there. And so it leads us to where we are tonight, and my pleasure to introduce the resources that we're asking for you to consider for approval. In mathematics this year at the elementary level, we're asking approval for Big Ideas Math Modeling Real Life, Eureka Math 2, Into Math, and Reveal Math. At the middle school level for math, we're looking at Core Curriculum by Mid-School Math, Illustrative Math, Into Math, and Middle School Math Solutions. And at the high school level for math, we're looking at Envisions for Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry, Glencoe, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, Into Algebra 1 and Into Geometry, Pre-Calculus, Graphical, Numerical, Algebraic, and Stats in Your World. Additionally, we have for our elementary school, we did the visual and performing arts review actually last year, but because of some of the challenges of COVID and pandemic, the visual arts was not completed. So they just finished that this year. So moving forward tonight for your approval under visual arts is Explorations in Art. And then finally tonight we have a school review that was done by Da Vinci Academy, and representing the Da Vinci Academy tonight is Principal Victory Molina. And they are putting forward for English language arts grades 3 through 5 side by side, excuse me. But we are all here to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Salt.
First, I would just want to thank you guys for all the time that you put in doing this review. I know that's a ton of work and it's sounds awfully tedious. So I'm glad you guys are the ones tasked with doing that. So I appreciate your time and your effort doing that. I also really appreciate the fact that you guys have that opportunity for the public to come in and comment on that. We saw lots. I read all of them. There were a lot of them, and I wanted to thank our community for filling out those forms and submitting them. There was some really interesting feedback. As you can imagine, with that many forms being submitted, there was some contradicting feedback across the board. But overall, it was really interesting. One thing that I wanted to bring up, and thank you for answering my questions. I tried. Seriously taking notes over here. So, and I think I passed this along. There was the Big Ideas Math in first grade. There was the expert review form that came through, and I was a little confused by that one. Specifically, was for the first grade review sheet, where, so for those of you who didn't see the expert panel, there's roughly 30 data points that come through in the sustainability different categories that are ranked 1 through 5. And then there's a spot for pros, cons, percentage of standards, and overall, something like that. And so there were a handful of 5s and 2s on this one particular textbook, and a whole lot of 3s. When I looked at the strengths, it said that there was a QR code for homework to help teach concepts, which I think is fantastic. But that was the only thing that was marked in those strengths. And there, under the weaknesses, it had 4 or 5 different things marked on there, including things that were going to increase teacher time. Like they couldn't find standardized tests, they weren't mapped to the standards themselves, and so all those things are pieces that the teachers would have to spend additional time doing. So I was just curious why that particular curriculum, because there were a couple other things of the big ideas that had not as low marks, but kind of similar scaled marks. And so I was curious if you could speak a little bit to that.
Sure. And Karen, you can add anything I miss on this. But so for that particular grade level 2, so one of the review forms, and multiple teachers are typically on the review forms, was that. And then there was another one that was mostly 5s, and it met 100% of the standards. And so that's really why we try to get multiple perspectives. As you know, we have teachers at all different levels, right? And so they look at materials differently. And so as they came together and had that discussion, some of those things were resolved, if you will, but we don't alter what they initially put on those forms. So they talk through that process. Here's what we saw as a strength, here's what we saw as a weakness, and then the other teachers can say, oh, but here's where it was addressed, those kinds of things. So we look at it as a whole, and so we don't just typically don't just adopt like at a grade level. So we're also looking K-5, so we need to keep that in mind as we navigate through that. And the other thing that I notice about teachers during the process, they tend to write the weaknesses more than they do the strengths, because they know the strengths, right? They're like, oh, it does this, this, and this. So that's sometimes reflected in those as well.
No, that totally makes sense. And to be perfectly honest, I came up here early because I saw that and it piqued my curiosity, and I looked at the textbook and said, this looks totally whatever. All right, cool. So I don't have any problems with it. I was just, sure. It was a interesting data point that I wanted to clarify. I have some other comments that's more discussion wise. Do you want me to hold off on those? Because it's not really, I don't know if other people have. So a couple of math curriculums I thought were phenomenal. The one specifically was the McGraw-Hill reveal. That seemed really, really interesting. I liked the way it had some coaching on the front side and really asked some engaging questions at the beginning of each chapters. There was one, I took a picture of it because I thought it was really interesting, where it had several different numbers and said, what are the differences? And so depending on what you're looking at, you're going to choose different numbers. So like 3 of the 4 numbers had a thousands place, so it had commas in them. One of them was only a hundreds number. Some of them, or all of them, had 7301, and then one number had like a 5 in it. And so just kind of different things, so you can kind of pick around and choose. And so I thought it was a really interesting way of kind of engaging students in observation when it comes to that math aspect. So I thought it was really really good. In the ELA curriculum, first of all, I'll start with 4th grade. I saw the book Because of Winn-Dixie in there, and not many people know Winn-Dixie. I'm from Alabama. I went to Winn-Dixie multiple times a month, and so has a little special place in my heart. Then I saw this comment actually from one of the sheets that came in was with the independent dames, well, that's actually in the 5th grade, but it felt very young. Like I have a 2nd grader who would have read that book in probably 35-40 minutes. And so as reading curriculum, it felt a little pulled down from what I would have expected a 5th grade reading curriculum to be. And content was interesting. It was just the nature of how it was written and kind of the format of the book. Also, maybe this was, I don't know if this was an accident or not, the whole thing is American Revolution, and there was a Civil War spies book in the middle of that, which I thought seemed a little out of place.
I'm going to let Victory talk to any of those that she might want to address, because she definitely has the expertise there.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for taking the time to review these materials and help us in our process as we look at the curriculum we'd like to adopt. So I know that some of the, one of the things that our teachers fell in love with this particular program was that it has a lot of authentic text. There are between 15 and 17 novels for every grade level. So by the time they go through all 3 grades, they've been exposed to those novels. But along with that, there's a lot of nonfiction, both stories, articles, videos online, timelines, a variety of different graphic organizers. So as the students are enveloped into a unit that has a particular theme or topic, within that they're exposed to the variety of different texts. So sometimes those texts will go by pretty quickly, and sometimes those texts will take a long time, depending on their length and also complexity. One of the things we also appreciated about it was that it has a variety of different levels, so it differentiates for our students. We have students that will need to engage in text at a lower grade level, but can think in those complex thoughts, and so they can participate. So some of what you saw were just samples of a variety of different differentiated text. So some of them, you're absolutely right, would be something that some of our students would not need to engage in, but in a small group, there's a portion of our kids that would. But they can be doing the same types of things, having the same types of discussions that the whole class is having, because they're still engaging in text that's relevant for the whole class. So you'll see that variety, and it is in every unit, sprinkled throughout every grade level. So.
Fantastic. And any thoughts on why Civil War was in with the American Revolution?
In the 5th grade one, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that was in the 5th grade one.
Let's see here.
I mean, it looked fascinating. It was talking about a Civil War spy ring, and I was like, I'm in. Like, almost just stole it. But so I was like, this doesn't belong here. I don't remember what it was.
I'm going to have to look deeper into that one.
Everything else is American Revolution centric, and so that one just seemed out of place being Civil War related.
Yeah, for Unit 3.
No worries. You don't have to.
I will let you know.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. Then real quick, on the 3rd grade, I thought the family tree book was incredibly engaging and fascinating, and I'm a little nervous if my kids end up with that they're going to start, spying on me and conversations and trying to get information out of me that I don't know. But that was great. And then the only other comment that I had regarding this, and I'm sorry I'm capitalizing on time here, was in the Little Leaders book in the 3rd grade reading level. Love the concept. I thought it was a phenomenal book. I started thumbing through it. However, they had one page that threw me off, and it was a young lady who the leadership trait that she had was about leading the Black Panthers and the Communist Party, and that doesn't feel like something that we should be glorifying in that sense. There were so many other pages in there full of wonderful stories and strong female leaders. That one just felt really out of place and not something that I think we really want to glorify. So that was my other comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Yep, Ms. Cons.
So I'll echo Mr. Salt. Thank you. It was quite a task. Thank you for presenting these. And I didn't have time to match up standards. I can't imagine how long it took, so I can't speak to, I really appreciate the percentages you gave, summarized how much of the standards are met in each of the books, because that's something we just don't have the time or knowledge for necessarily. Into math across the grade levels, I loved those into math books. They seemed very engaging. I believe the middle school books, the beginning of each chapter focused on a character trait that helped the student kind of capture the student's attention and desire to do better as it related to math. It was super cool addition, so I loved those books. The Big Ideas math books seemed wonderful. They seem to really offer multiple avenues for figuring out problems. It's kind of like what I do as a parent when I'm like, okay, you can also do long division this way or this way. And it really offered a lot of that. So those were awesome. I did not love the core curriculum math. It touched on some subjects like racism that just didn't seem in the scope of what math books should do, writing an essay about that. So I think there were other options that really captured what we want our students to learn. Let's see, for the ELA, can you please explain, because I was trying to read all the printouts and everything, just to understand the side-by-side program. Is it a reading club? Did I see that somewhere that it's a reading club program, or is it core classroom curriculum?
It's core classroom
Okay.
curriculum. What they call the reading club is the individual small
Okay.
group differentiated books.
Thank you.
So, right.
I just couldn't, mesh it together.
Yes, so
Okay,
there's
good.
the central and then those individuals.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand that. And so it looked like from those helpful printouts that were next to the books, it looked like 5th grade was about survival and human rights, 4th grade westward expansion, and 3rd grade civil rights. If I read that right, I just don't know if that encompasses the whole year curriculum or just a portion with these new proposed books.
That's an excellent question.
Okay.
So there's 6 units for each of the different grade levels. And so I brought the curriculum overviews here. And each of the units has a different theme to it. So what you were able to see was 1 unit from each of those different grade levels.
Okay.
So one of the 6. There are other ones, realistic fiction, The War with Grandpa. There's historical fiction. There's legend with Maniac Magee. So there's a variety of different, what does it mean to be a good Samaritan? How should conflicts within community be solved? What's important to know about a person of influence? How should conflicts be solved? So those are the central themes for several of the other units.
Okay, good. Thank you. That helps. And I think just as a suggestion, maybe I could have missed it. It could have been there, but maybe a little note sharing that this is a sample, 1 of 6 units, just so people understand the full year's curriculum that these 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are getting might be helpful to someone like me. So thank you, but yeah, wonderful. Thank you all.
Mr. Temby?
Mr. Salt, you strike me more as a Piggly Wiggly type of guy versus Winn-Dixie. So,
I have been to Piggly Wiggly on multiple occasions.
yes, just for the record. And Tacey, it was 389 pages, not 365.
I was close.
So I focused a little bit more on the ELA, which I thought was excellent. This may sound a little preachy, but in today's world, I think we need to be mindful that our goal is to educate kids. And I have tremendous faith in our kids that they're going to get exposed to a lot of different things. And as long as they're appropriate and it gives them a broad perspective, I have faith over time from their frames of reference that they're going to distill out where they stand on issues, how they feel about them. So I kind of applaud this introduction of this, of many of the materials in this program. I applaud you guys for looking at this. I did think the Civil War thing was a little aberrant to the revolution theme, but there are a lot of different perspectives reflected in those reading options for the kids. So just want to thank you for that. I didn't focus as much on the math because while I excelled in math, going through a math textbook is really painful. So I have trust in the teams that presented those. So thank you.
Thank you. I just a few comments. I think we did an excellent job of getting the word out that we were reviewing textbooks. Number of times, Friday newsletters and other places. If people say, "Oh, I didn't know you were reviewing," well, then you weren't looking. And so I applaud mostly, I think, Mr. Gregory on down for getting that word out, because it was really, the word came out. And I think I want to thank Cindy Connor. My suspicion is that 389-page document she probably put together. So please give her my thanks. I'm sure she did a lot of work, as you all did. and I could be wrong, but I believe that's the largest document I've seen in my 4 years on the board, with a possible exception of some legal documents, possible exception, but that's okay. You know what? We had a lot to review, and I'm not criticizing that at all. I think that's great, and I applaud the number of parents, teachers, community members, and I'm with you. I've never seen that many comment. I think that's great. The more exposure we get to our textbooks, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, regarding the side-by-side books, when I saw the box, it was all about civil rights leaders, and thought, okay, that's great. Is that all they're going to read? And then I got this sheet that Ms. Connor had, and I went to the side-by-side website, and you kind of said that, Ms. Molina, that I saw like 15 different blocks, and one of them happens to be civil rights, and that was the example they gave us. And I'm like, great, we got a broad, like Mr. Temple, like you said, a broad brush of different books to interest kids, which I thought was great. So I thank you all, and I mean that. I know it was a lot of work, and we do look and we check, and that's part of what we have to do. But I greatly appreciate all the work that you did. Any other comments from the board? Yep. Let's see where we were.
Thank you.
I think it's next time on consent. Thank you. Okay, next up is the monitor operational performance, the annual monitoring report for executive limitations policy 2.8 emergency superintendent succession. Mr. Gregory.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to present the monitoring report for EL 2.8 this evening. It is very brief, so I'll tell you that up front. Thank you all. The policy, for those who don't know, this policy is to protect the Board of Education and thereby the district from being unprepared due to a sudden loss of superintendent services, i.e. I get hit by a bus. It's kind of an eerie one to talk about, but for whatever reason, I am unable to serve. As such, the policy requires the superintendent to ensure that at least 2 other staff members who have a superintendent license and are so designated by the superintendent are sufficiently familiar with essentially, I'll just say, the operations of the district, the issues of the district, the policies of the district, to successfully serve in the interim. I'm glad to report that we're very fortunate to have knowledgeable, professional, committed, and expert leadership amongst especially our cabinet team. This policy requires me to designate at least 2 other qualified, prepared, and capable staff members to fill the role of superintendent in case of an emergency. And I will say for the current academic year, so the 21-22 school year, those 2 folks are Dr. Susan Field, Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services, and Dr. Jim Smith. Furthermore, for this current year, because we've had this discussion in the past, rather than naming just 2 and putting the board in a position of having to, in the case of an emergency, now choose between the 2. For this year, it's Dr. Field as the first designee and Dr. Smith as the second designee. They have the knowledge, respect, and relationships to hit the ground running. And I also know they are very well supported, or would be very well supported by their colleagues and the rest of the administrative team. In your packet, I've included a summary of both of their backgrounds and qualifications. And the board should feel very comfortable and confident that the district is prepared and in a good place relative to emergency superintendent succession. With that, I'll stop and am happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Temby.
Just a comment, said it the last time we went through this, we're really blessed to have the quality of team that we do in this district. And that goes from the 2 individuals cited in this to the entire cabinet. And Tom, we do not want you to get hit by a bus, but this gives us some solace that if you are hit by a bus, we've got some people in line. So thank you.
Me too.
Any other comments? Mr. Salt?
I like to think of it as the extended vacation policy, not the hit by a bus policy. So
I would say too, I don't want to embarrass Miss Allen, but Miss Allen is going through a process right now to get her superintendent's license also. So we'll well prepared.
It's like the 1927 Yankees. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, I mean, just great players. So.
Very good. Thank you, board. I'm going to do the MRE. Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidences of formatting changes in the next minor report cycle? Do you see evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? Mr. Salt.
Just a question, and I am not sold one way or the other on this. I enjoyed having the CVs in there, but I don't know if that's purely necessary, like having all of the peripherals that they're engaged in. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's necessary.
The what?
The accolades and the involvements of both Dr. Field and Dr. Smith.
There's a couple pages worth of bullet points.
Did you not read the whole thing?
No. I didn't. I missed what you said. I thought you said CCs. I guess my thought is that is Mr. Gregory's good attempt, I would say, to show that his successors are well qualified and can do it. So that's my thought.
Totally fine. It was just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any areas you would like to learn more about prior to presentation of the next minor report?
I'd like to learn more of Dr. Smith's musical taste.
So noted.
Beyond Shakira.
Are there linkage needs the board should address? Do you see any need for any part? Do you see the need for any part of this policy to be changed? Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Next up is the annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.13 cost of governance. Mr. Temby.
Thank you, Mr. LaValle. This policy period was monitored from January 27th, 2021 to January 28th to 2022. This policy refers to the development of the board so that we can discharge our duties as board members and our responsibility to adhere to the board budget. Further, this board outlines board travel and sets guidelines for the use of the board's discretionary budget. Evidence used to determine compliance was a listing of the Colorado Association of School Boards and the National School Boards Association events and symposia attended by board members, the district fiscal audit presented in November 2021, Mr. LaValle's and Ms. Cloninger's attendance at audit committee meetings, a recap of board travel during the monitoring period, and reports given to the board by the board treasurers. In my opinion is that we are in compliance with this policy for the period monitored. And we do have a couple of things that we do want to talk about during the MRE review.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Temby. Any other thoughts? Okay. You know, let's talk about these first to remind ourselves.
Yeah.
Mr. Temby, what were you going to say?
So, and this may be a question for Mr. Gregory. So we monitor this from a January to January time period, whatever that 1 year period is. We talk about fiscal adherence and our fiduciary responsibility as board members. We have a discretionary budget that mirrors the board budget, which is July 1st to June 30th the following year. So we kind of bifurcate budgets when we're talking about our adherence. So Mr. LaValle and I talked about potentially moving this review up and then having the budget that we are looking at, make sure that we're in adherence to it, is one budget. And so that's a thought. Tom, I don't know whether that matters per se, because it's really about our general adherence to this, but it would be nice to have a document that really supports that. Otherwise, we're splitting budgets during the monitoring. So just an observation, Mr. LaValle and I made.
Yeah, I'm trying to think why there would have been, why it was set up this, what justification would have been there for having it done this way? Because it's certainly on a calendar year basis versus the fiscal year basis. I don't know, Ms. Allen, do you think of any reason with, we would obviously, if the board wanted to change that, obviously you can. We would just need to change the monitoring calendar probably too, so we're not reporting on it in February after the close of a fiscal year in June.
Yeah,
But
Mr. LaValle and I were talking, I think that would be our preference, and even if it's switching around the review of a GP, that we look at more towards the beginning of a school year.
Sure.
And moving that deeper into our calendar, because again, as long as we're on the right cycle, reviewing our GPs, we're okay. This one has probably the most finite need to be looking at one budget.
I certainly don't see a downside to it, and it would be similar to how the monitoring reports, the ELs, the reports that I do for our budgeting and then our audit, it really reflects a fiscal year. For example, it's in December that I do the one that reviews the prior year's audit findings and all of that based on that fiscal year. So it would be closely aligned with that.
Okay, and then Mr. LaValle and I were talking, and he saw something that was an error of omission on my part, but historically an error of omission in our reporting. So.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Temby. And my thought, y'all, let us know if there is a good reason for us doing it now, and let us know. We're not hardcore, but unless there is, I think our thoughts, at least Mr. Temby and I, would be to move it. We probably have to do this again in August or September. We don't want to necessarily skip the end, but just let us know. I think
we'll do some checking historically. Maybe there's something we can find out, but I can't think of anything.
Okay,
right now.
My thought is on 3C. It says make available to the board a travel expense report. This is when we go to a conference, and we do this. We have a report. In fact, we don't get paid for mileage and parking if we don't do this. Report to include the conference attended, the total cost of the travel, the reason for attendance, and Ms. Mattson, I don't want to put you on a spot. I don't know why that's on here. I don't know why the cost of travel is really relevant. I mean, we track it in our board budget, so it's there. I just don't know why. We have not been doing this, I don't think, unless you've been adding that, which I doubt, to our reports. Yeah. My thought is, I don't know why that's even on here, the total cost of travel. That was my thought.
Yeah, inferred in this policy is that we're adhering to our budget, right?
Yep.
Fiduciary responsibility here, that is reflected in our budget document. Budgeted number and our actual expense, and so. I believe that travel number in aggregate is captured. So
agreed. And I just want to, just so everybody can read this, or I'll read it. It says reports are to be submitted to the board secretary before any reimbursement will be processed, and we are honoring that now. So okay. So again, when we get to the MRE, we'll talk about that. Is there anything else? I had, while we're here, go ahead. Were you gonna say something? Oh. Under 5, it says board budget reports. The board treasurer will make available to all directors an accounting of board budget expenditures. I think that should say board discretionary budget, because that's really what we do. It's not the entire budget, it's just the discretionary part. And Ms. Cloninger may or may not agree with that. I think she, I was because what we see is the discretionary budget, not the entire. And I think this should say that the treasurer will make the board discretionary budget. So that was my thought. Mr. Gregory, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's fine. I just, for those who may not understand, there are expenses that get, for accounting purposes, are associated with the Board of Education's account numbers or account codes. And those would be things like the collection fees charged by the county treasurer. That's not really a part of the board's discretionary budget. We have to do that. They collect the money and disperse it in our county, and that's what we have to do. There are other things like that.
Ms. Mattson's salary is an example.
Yeah, Ms. Matson's salary and benefits gets associated with the board, but again, that's not
those are
not
discretionary.
The board doesn't discuss, what's going to happen with these items. Those are the kinds of things that aren't discretionary. So, I see no reason why we can't add that word.
Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, let's do the MRE. Thank you, Mr. Temby.
Mr. LaValle, just supporting that as well. Some of the language there in Part 4 mentions discretionary budget, so I think it would be congruent with that.
Yes, it says board discretionary fund guidelines. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidence or formatting changes in the next monitoring report cycle? Yeah. As noted, is that fair, Ms. Mattson? Okay. Do you see evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? No, not evidence. No. Okay. Are there areas where you would like to learn more about prior to presentation of the next monitoring report cycle?
I think maybe just historical context.
Okay. Historical context regarding
The budget.
the when
Yeah.
budget for doing
Yeah,
it now
why the
versus
monitoring,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Thank you. Are there any areas you would like to learn more about? That's what we just said. I'm repeating myself. Thank you. Are there linkage needs the board should address? Do you see any need for? Do you see the need for any part of this policy to be changed? As noted, Ms. Mattson, did you get those? Okay. How do we want to handle?
Yeah, I'd be happy to work with somebody.
Perhaps Ms. Cloninger, since she's the treasurer.
Yeah.
I
I'll work with
hope
Heather on it.
hopefully Heather doesn't mind doing that. That makes sense for me.
No.
So okay. Okay. Let's.
And Tina, I'll get notes from you.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. By the way, we have 26 people listening in remotely. Okay. Next is superintendent reports, external reviews 2021, 2022. Mr. Gregory.
Dr. Field, please.
Good evening. So I am pleased to share information about our external reviews and the process that we undertake each year to do this. Remember, last year we did not do these because of the pandemic and COVID and all the disruptions in schools. So this was our first time back, which we were really excited about. So also a reminder, external reviews is one part of the district's 4-part accreditation process. So anybody remember what the other 3 are? Yes, this is a test. Will, Temby, don't let me down. There's 3 other ones. Yes, think about that. So there's 4 pieces of our accreditation process in District 20. Right? Right, that's 2. So 1 more. Starts with an A. It's in the accreditation handbook, but it's the absolutes. There you go. So we had the Unified Improvement Plan. I know it's a lot. So the Unified Improvement Plan, which our DAC has already been through back in November. So that's the one that comes from the state, and that's always based on CMAS data. Then we have the site plan, which is internal to District 20, and that's on a 3 to 4 year rotation. And then we have the absolutes. So the absolutes are requirements of state law or D20 policy, which all schools must meet. So in the handbook, if you remember, there was a multi-page document. It had 5 different sections in it. So absolutes are verified by principals with members of their school accountability committee and submitted annually to, used to go to Dr. Smith, this year it'll come to me. And the principals direct supervisors also review the absolutes supporting documentation. It's big. There's a lot to that part too. So external review is just one part of this whole process. So each of our schools, next slide, please. So each of our schools undergo an external review every 3 years. Now we're kind of on a 4-year cycle right now because of skipping last year due to COVID. This year we had 9 schools reviewed, and each of these schools' commendations and recommendations were provided to you in the packet. The PSSGs were the principal supervisory and support group facilitate all the external reviews. We coordinate facilitators, being intentional, not having supervisors lead the reviews for the schools they supervise. So all the middle schools that you saw in the packet, I did not facilitate those. The one I facilitated was Legacy Peak. And Dr. Smith, Maureen Lang here, they all did different schools as well, not the schools they supervise. So the external review is a one-day process and includes experts from around our district, as well as at least one expert panelist from outside of our district. So all of us have connections in different school districts all over the place, so we invite people in from other districts. The goal of the external review process is to help schools examine their current practices while collaborating to answer a compelling question about an area of needed focus. So a lot of these questions are very much data driven. So principals will look at their CMAS data or their NWEA data or something from their character and climate survey. There's a wide range of data sources that principals will use. And they will, together with their leadership teams and oftentimes their SACs, will develop a question. So it is a thoughtful process and that our principals are engaged in. Principals and their leadership teams typically developed a research type question, which is specific and will lead to actionable and realistic suggestions and results, because that's what everybody wants. They want a fresh set of eyes to come into their schools and answer a question and get some immediate feedback that they could put to work right away. So the PSSGs also work with principals on their question. For example, one of the questions they asked this year was, how can we improve our current instructional practices in English language arts during our small group intervention time to increase student achievement? So next slide, please. So this is our list of schools this year. You can see 9 participated in external reviews. We actually had 10, but 1 had an IB visit, site plan, a lot of other things going on. So that school will be next year. So next year we'll actually have 12. Next slide, please. So this is the list of topics this year, and they were all relevant to their schools. As you can see in the document that was included in your packet, this year's topics include professional learning communities, math and ELA instruction, equitable and inclusive environment, and social emotional learning. Next slide, please. So the expert panel is selected by the principal and often other teachers on staff or just suggestions that come from their SAC or whomever. Or a lot of times principals will call other principals and say, hey, this is my topic. Do you have any ideas? They'll call over to Learning Services and ask if we have any thoughts and ideas. And this year was a challenge just because it's hard to be out of your school for a day. And so a lot of times we have teachers that principals want to have there as experts, because if we're talking about curriculum or instruction, we want experts there. So it was challenging at times to get people there. Often our Learning Services TOSAs are attending 3 and 4 of these every fall. So the panel, which typically has 6 to 8 experts, spend the day listening to a presentation. So the principal always starts off and their team with just kind of an overview of the school, the demographics, the good things going on in the school, the things that they're super proud of, and areas for growth that they have identified. The expert panel always talks to students and teachers. A lot of times, especially in our high schools and even in our middle schools, principals will bring in huge panels of students. And the expert panel will talk to groups of students. We always go visit classrooms, we talk to teachers, and we engage in rich discussions around the topic. Oftentimes, the panels will have lunch with teachers, so teachers will come in and sit down, because after you've been in a classroom and you have follow-up questions, teachers would be able to answer those questions. So our panels often say that they get as much out of the day as the principal and the school does. Everybody and every panel I've ever led or facilitated, everybody on the panel just walks away with just a sense of awe and just like, oh my gosh, this is the best idea ever. The one panel that I facilitated this past fall was at Legacy Peak, and the principal, Jonathan Johnson, was really focused on his schedule and trying to find more collaboration time for his teachers, because as you know, they're a project-based learning school and all of their teachers are integrated in projects. So that includes art, music, PE, world language. And so he cannot have the exploratory teachers, fill in for the core teachers when they want to do planning. So he really had a challenge, and all of us together sat and talked about schedules and the different challenges that they present, but it was a very rich discussion and he was very much appreciated. So next slide, please. So the findings are always about growth, not gotcha. So we want to build on a school's strengths, identify areas for growth. We challenge thinking of schools because when you come in with a fresh set of eyes, you see things that you don't see necessarily yourself because you're living it every day. So the facilitator has an initial conversation at the end of the day. So for example, when I facilitated over at Legacy Peak this past fall, we had a rich discussion, and actually we did something a little different. We invited Jonathan in at the end because he wanted to talk to everybody on the panel. There were 6 of us on the panel because he was had real specific questions about different people's schedules that I wouldn't have the nitty-gritty details. But a typical debrief looks like the facilitator going back in and talking to the principal and oftentimes their teams. So it can be a couple teachers, it could be an assistant principal, a dean, whoever, and kind of giving a high overview look of what happened, just some big themes that emerged, because it takes us about a week to write up the actual report while we're sometimes doing multiple visits. Sometimes we're doing 2 and 3 visits, and so we'll take a little time to do that. So we'll go in, the facilitator will go in and just kind of give some big ahas or big takeaways from the day, and then we'll actually give the report about a week later. The report is sent to the principal and also the principal's supervisor. So I was out at Challenger last week visiting the principal there, and we were talking about some social emotional learning programming based off some recommendations that she had received from her report, and we had a great conversation about some of her next steps and some of the recommendations that she would want to take moving forward. There are so many recommendations. You could never do everything that you saw in that packet. And so a principal and their teams really has to pick 1, 2, or 3 things that they think would give them, you know, a really good chance at achieving, you know, some change based on the question. So next slide, please. So as you can see, I've identified some samplings of themes and commendations. This just based on the reports, I pulled a bunch out, and there were tons there. So teacher collaboration, time is essential. You hear that. Teacher leadership is essential. Professional learning communities you see all over the place. That is a very important structure for ongoing work. Social emotional learning supports are critical for students. We heard a lot of positivity around students being engaged in learning and feeling supported, and then a focus on data and instruction. Next slide, please. And then a sampling of recommendations. A lot of work around professional learning communities came forward, onboarding practices, articulation, future planning and focus. We always hear about articulation and just having time for teachers to talk with one another, especially from elementary to middle, middle to high, and then sometimes the whole K-12 continuum. So finally, the document of recommendations and commendations in your board packet is shared with all of our principals at this, like within the next month or so. We just got it all together, as many principals and their teachers have similar questions. So, and I am always impressed by the willingness of staff in our district and outside the district who volunteer their time and expertise to help our schools reflect and learn and grow through this process. And a few years ago, probably 3 years, 4 years ago, we used to have this tag, which is talented and gifted. The state comes in and also does a audit, but they also have a process that they have patterned most recently like our process, because Ruthie Manning Freeman, who was our former tag assistant director, and I gave them some feedback that it would be more meaningful for the state to come in and say, hey, what are you working on? We'd love to give you some feedback versus you're not doing this right, you're not doing this right. That always felt like a gotcha. So they were very open-minded to that. So that is my formal report. What questions can I answer for you?
Mr. Salt.
Thank you. Thank you so much for putting this together. And I think the process sounds phenomenal. I'm I think it'd be a lot of fun to come in and sit in on, just hear all the conversations and kind of how you guys are bouncing stuff off. Getting the knowledge of the group, I think is phenomenal. So I really like that. Excuse me, and thank you for addressing all of my hundreds of questions that I sent you. So again, taking notes like a champ over here. I had a couple questions, if you don't mind, about some of the specifics that were in the document. I don't know how much you'll answer me.
Yeah, because Jim and Maureen may know it depends on the school. So
all good. So one of the things I think that caught my eye was I can just mention the school and then you can see if that works. Liberty High School.
that was Tacey.
Okay, I'm not
Did
going
she
to ask
leave?
that question then. Moving on. Challenger. No.
But that is my school. One of my schools I supervise. I
Well,
might
it was
be able
just
to answer it.
interesting. They talked about harsh and punitive programming, and I was curious what was considered harsh and punitive programming.
That's a good question. I wouldn't be able
Okay.
to answer that question.
No worries.
But we don't have harsh and punitive programming at Challenger.
That's why I was.
Yeah.
That was
It's a
the
good
question that I
question.
had. Yeah, that's why it raised a kind of a question for me. So what I'll do is I'll move on to the complimentary side instead of the questions. I saw that there was a lot of feedback around the PLC time, which I think is fun. I know there's a big push around the district right now, and I think it's great, specifically around protecting the time. I've heard that a lot from our teachers who come and speak to us about an invasion of PLC time. And so having that recommendation to help protect that, I think is phenomenal feedback for our principals. And so I wanted to specifically call that out and thank you for providing that. And that came in multiple places. So it was a theme that I noticed.
It always is too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I also liked with Doug Valley that there were risk-taking behaviors that were being acknowledged and encouraged, because risk-taking behaviors encourage growth and innovation. And so the fact that we're nurturing that and calling that out as a positive thing and committing that, I thought was fantastic. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. So I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring back teeter-totters. Just kidding.
What'd you say?
I said for risk-taking behavior, bring back teeter-totters.
Oh, gosh.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Mr. Temby.
Susan, what's the history of members, external reviews? Because I was with Maureen and Tacey, I think. It was just a fabulous. Pete does a particularly good job of bringing in not necessarily the all-star team you would expect.
Oh, right.
Those, so it was not illuminating because I had 2 kids. I had 3 kids. But it's a great experience. I think every board member should sit in on, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend their own school.
Oh, I totally agree.
Maybe crossing over to a
Yep.
different school.
Yep.
But it's just a fabulous experience.
Well, that's what all of us love too, because to get into a different level or different school that you don't work closely with, you learn a ton.
Yeah. And that one day is like a year's worth of insight.
Well, anytime you walk in, like you have people who come in from all corners of the district and outside the district. Like we had a couple years ago, I was working with Village High School, and Nathan had somebody come in from the business world, just a completely different lens at the question that we were asking, and it was around math instruction, but he added a lot to the conversation.
Yeah. So that was more commentary. Obviously, the content here in the report, so much for the school to look at and triage, if you will, figure out what's the highest yield come out of that. And that's hard. I mean, we've got a strategic plan. We've got other things we're throwing in front of these administrators. You throw these things on, there's probably an epiphany or two that comes from that process, and but it could yield great results. Just don't know. So one pearl coming out of the process is just tremendous. So yeah, so thank you.
If I may add just real quick, Mr. Tibby, I think in our district, it's even more important to get into, to know about schools. because of choice, because of site-based, there is something different happening all the time. And to make assumptions about what's happening in schools many times are false. And I think when you attend something like this, or even participating on DAC, you learn so much more about what the variations are across the district and what different schools are working on at different times. It's
Yeah.
important.
Like, for example, a comprehensive high school, you mentioned Rampart or Liberty, huge, 1,700 students. So there are definitely years where, they might be focused on math or ELA, but you think about it, a vast majority of the staff don't teach math or ELA. Whereas in an elementary school, everybody teaches math, everybody teaches ELA. So.
Thank you, and I too thank you for all of you for all the work. I know that'd be great. I would love to maybe sit on one of those, if possible. I'd sit back in the corner and be quiet, obviously. I did that actually. I thought I did a pretty good job at the what is it that we attended?
Belonging Student Voice.
Yeah,
I can vouch for you. You did. Good.
Yes, I kept
were
my
in my
mouth
group.
shut. Yes, I did a good job. I have and it sounds like the focus then are primarily the principals that sort of define what focuses in their
teams.
And their teams. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That answers the question. I saw this was from Liberty. Many teachers were intentional to ask students what pronouns they preferred at the beginning of the year, and several students reported this was a way they felt valued. So are parents told about this? If I had a daughter that was struggling in this area and wanted to be called by male pronouns, would I be informed of that?
I'm going to let Tanya answer that question. Thank you, Tanya.
Certainly. No, not necessarily. It's really a conversation that is yielded to the kid, and we also weigh in age and maturity as well. That is guidance we received from the Office of Civil Rights as well as our Department of Regulatory Agencies, who are the agency that oversees our Colorado civil rights regulations.
I would be furious if I found out that against my wishes or without my knowledge, I had a daughter who said that. I'm not opposed. We want to love each kid, and those kids that are struggling, by golly, talk to them. Let's have a discussion about it with parents. I struggle greatly with that. Challenger Middle School. What is the Boys Town model?
It's a model for kind of discipline, really. And it teaches kids, and I don't know a whole lot about it.
Because it sounds like you wanted to get away from it.
I
just never heard
some
of it.
pieces of it. There's pieces of it that are very relevant for today, and there's some pieces that are not. The school is focused more like on sources of strength, and you just can't do everything. You can't do ruler, social sources of strength, Boys Town model, capturing kids' hearts, all of the different pieces that support social emotional learning. And so they've been using the Boys Town model for years. It is a discipline model. Do you know anything about it, Jim, at all? Okay.
Okay, I was just curious. Yeah. And I think this was from Challenger as well. I saw intentionally weave SEL lessons into daily curriculum/lesson. No problem. I like that. My thought was, why not insert character in addition to SEL? Mm-hmm. Weave SEL and character
absolutely
lessons.
Overlap.
Yeah.
They absolutely overlap.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
That's all I had. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Dr. Field.
Thank you.
So I would just thank everybody for participating. It does take time. But if you look at those 4 elements that Dr. Field talked about before, the site planning process and this external review process especially are things that are additions. And I think they pay dividends, especially for the focus at each school. But I just know that it takes a lot of time from the folks sitting at the table over there and others around the district. So thank you.
All right, next is Resolution 129-22 appropriation from the Building Fund and contract award for boiler replacement at Prairie Hills Elementary School. May we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Discussion, please, Mr. Gregory.
Yes, Ms. Allen, please.
Good evening. Very nice to see you. The resolution you're considering this evening is for the appropriation of building funds in the amount not to exceed $375,000 for boiler replacement at Prairie Hills Elementary. Mr. Garnhart had mentioned it a little bit when he came up. It also, if you approve the resolution, would approve us entering into a contract with Olson Plumbing and Heating to complete that work. So part of the $230 million bond project has a line with a little over $4 million associated with it for various projects like HVAC, fire alarm system repair, etc. In fact, during the last meeting, if you recall, out of this line item, you approved the chiller here at the EAC to be replaced for an amount a little over $1.6 million. After you made that appropriation, there's about $391,000 available dollars in that budget line in the building fund. So what we're requesting this evening is that you appropriate $375,000 of those dollars for the next priority project in the district, which is replacement of the boiler at Prairie Hills. And again, if you were to approve it, not only do we appropriate those dollars, but we're able to move forward with a contract award for Olson Plumbing and Heating. Do you have any questions for me?
Roll call.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mr. Lavalley?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye.
Mr. Temby?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. School calendars for 2022, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. Mr. Gregory?
Yes, Dr. Smith, please.
All right, we're moving from boilers and chillers to calendars, so fantastic. We're going to talk about the calendars for the next 3 years, the 2022 to 23, 2023 to 24, and the 2024 to 25. As you're aware, the EL 2.10 will be monitored in June and addresses the parameters for the school year calendars. The parameters recommend that we develop calendars for 3 years, and considerations are things like teacher-student contact time, the number of days for each employee group, along with other specific criteria for EL 2.10. The new calendar for this year is 2024-2025. With that, do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Salt?
I was a little nervous when you said you were going to talk about calendars for the next 3 years, but glad we were able to wrap it up a little quicker. Thank you.
I didn't give lots of detail, but we can go into detail if you'd like.
Anybody? Yeah, I had just a couple questions.
Sure.
Since I think we've shifted a little bit with the remote learning option, my sense is that the first two are like we had are full up snow days. And then from then on, we're going to have remote, which counts as contact time. So I'm just wondering, with that, can we, and this was before the comments, so I'm not directly, but can we nail down the graduation, the last day of school dates closer, given that new paradigm?
Right. So it's difficult because we do have 6 storm days built into the calendar. 2 of those we know are the snow days, and prior to this last week, we would have thought probably no snow days this year, but we did have some snow. The problem though becomes is we have the 2 full snow days, but we also have late starts. We have to account for the time lost for late starts. We don't know how many late starts we're going to have between now and the end of the year. Also, elementary schools don't utilize e-learning on snow days, just the secondary schools, middle schools, and high schools.
But that said, we should be able to do it before May.
We definitely should. I think, the question of can we do it in late April? I think that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Barring any bomb cyclones or anything like that.
Although I do remember after graduation 2 years ago, we canceled school. We had 16 inches of snow in May, so I understand that.
Yeah,
okay, thank you. Any other
Absolutely.
questions?
Just know that you want to talk about PLC.
Oh, absolutely. So Dr. Field and I began working with a group last year to look at PLC times. And so we are forming a proposal that we'll give to Mr. Gregory soon around having PLC times on Wednesdays periodically throughout the course of the year.
Which would be identified on the calendar. So it's been kind of
another
won't call it the
symbol
Wild
of some
Wild
sort.
West, but different schools are just doing different things at this point. And if we can identify it for, families, teachers, parents, everybody, or students on the calendar, and it's the same across the district, it just bodes easier for transportation purposes, and it's identified. So the message is just know that committee is still working, and depending on what their recommendation is, we could come back with a change to the calendar based on just the PLC component.
Right.
Later this spring.
Right. And you might recall we had a survey for staff as well as community members on that topic.
Mr. Salt.
Thank you. So on that topic, when we did our tour through Academy Endeavor, I believe it was,
yes,
they had chunk time already set for PLCs. So with this new proposal, will they have to basically revise the way that they're doing stuff, even though they have a system that works splendidly well for them?
Yeah, so it'll have to be consistent across all levels in all schools for the sake of transportation, food service, and all the different planning components. But I know that she wasn't super excited about having it, but
it's a very polite way of putting that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you.
Expulsion appeal notification, state law CRS 24-72-2-4 3D III. The public records law requires the Board of Education to comply with provisions of the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, which protects the confidentiality of student discipline records. Therefore, the report by the superintendent on expulsion appeals is confidential. Next thing is other business. The 2022 NSBA Advocacy Institute debrief. Mr. Temby.
Great, thanks, Mr. LaValle. I'll try to be brief here. I sent a 4-page report off to Mr. Gregory and my colleagues here and Ms. Thompson, who attended the National School Boards Association Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C. A few months ago, I became a member of the Colorado Association of School Boards Federal Relations Network. And there's about, Tanya, I believe, 10 members, 12 members of the Federal Relations Network. And there's at least one representative for each congressional district. And I am the representative for the 5th Congressional District on the Federal Relations Network. Several of the other members were in person there. They did give a remote option because of the latest variant. But several of the other members of that group were there, to include St. Vrain Valley, Weld County 6, Denver Public Schools, Englewood Public Schools, Poudre Valley Public Schools, Boulder Public Schools, and Sherry Wrench, the executive director of CASB, Matt Cook, who we all know, their director of public policy and advocacy, pretty much organized this venture, and was in attendance, as was CASB board president Dick Martyr of St. Vrain Valley. So I want to touch on some highlights here. The macro overview is that it was time well spent. I would say that the highlight out of the 3 days, all dense days, was the opportunity on day 3 to get in front of our congressional delegation from Colorado. It was all, unfortunately, via Zoom. In the past, it's been an in-person visit to the Hill, which is very meaningful because of the dense schedules of each of our either representatives or U.S. senators. Many of their staff experts, chiefs of staff, deputy chiefs of staff, policy experts in education are the ones with whom we meet. We did have the opportunity to meet with the Deputy Chief of Staff for Representative Lamborn, James Thomas, and another staff person who focuses on education, Thomas Bailey. Probably the biggest themes that are coming out of NASB's legislative agenda and what we were imparting to Representative Lamborn, and again, I'm going to ask Ms. Thompson to help complement some of my comments with her perspectives. But the full funding of the Individuals with Disability Education Act is incredibly important. It was enacted in 1975 and it has never been fully funded. So do the math. For 47 years, this act has never been fully funded. To bring that home to all of us, we spend about $31 million out of our general fund for, again, needed programs that we absolutely support 100%. But we spend $31 million on the IDEA mandates. And with budget funding shortfalls at the federal level and to some degree the state level, we are absorbing about a $19 million shortfall in that program. So more than 50% of what we pay for these programs is underfunded, so we support that. So we had a big discussion tonight about our teachers and pay and other things, other priorities in this district. And by not having this fully funded, that kind of handcuffs us to have a little bit more discretion over our resources as a district. So this is an important issue. So Senate Bill 3213, House Resolution 5894 call for a 10-year ramp up of the funding. It's not asking Congress to come up with full funding immediately. It's not just a complaint. It is it's a glide path for 10 years for Congress to look at this. Problem coming from the perspective of Representative Lamborn's office is that this is an appropriation versus a pay-for bill. So they're going to have to, as they like to say, rob Peter to pay Paul to find funding even with a 10-year glide path. So this is incredibly important. This is not just a concern that we brought up from the district's perspective. This is coming from every district in America. We've got to do something to add more resources to our special needs communities. So that was a big theme.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add,
Yes.
just I believe full funding doesn't mean full funding. Also, it means 40%.
Yeah,
of the
funding
bill.
of that
Right, it's full
40%,
funding
but
of the
it's not-
40%.
yeah, exactly. So, but the trickle down to us obviously is important. As part of the American Rescue Plan, this is less so for us because we're well resourced. Thanks to Shelley and her team, our use of ESSER funds, some of the other things that we've done in finding hotspots or whatever. But part of the American Rescue Plan is $65 billion nationwide to build out our broadband infrastructure. And so obviously that's important to rural districts, other districts. Colorado is a perfect example. Got a lot of denseness in terms of population and then sparsely populated areas really need this broadband. So when we talk about equity of access and resources for people, again, let's not confuse the term, but equity, giving everybody the same ability to learn, right? The broadband structure in the United States is incredibly important. So that's part of NASB's focus, and it's certainly something that we supported in front of Representative Lamborn. Another key thing, we've been talking about teachers a lot, and rightly so. Senate Bill 2244 is the Preparing and Retaining Educational Professionals Act. This act would help build a pipeline of educators, provide professional development for special education and CTE teachers, and much more. And so we'd really like to see a lot of bipartisan support for that because we have a national crisis in that area. And then one thing that Representative Lamborn is focused on is really to make sure that impact aid continues and its impact, while it does not seem huge in our district. Tom, I'm not sure, or Becky, the latest number, but I know it exceeds $1 million to this district. So incredibly important to get that offset. People normally wouldn't be tax paying in our district. Representatives and senators who were met with during that Zoom kind of morning, afternoon were Representative Joe Neguse, Representative Ken Buck, Senator John Hickenlooper, Representative Diana DeGette, Representative Doug Lamborn, Representative Ed Perlmutter, Representative Jason Crow. Yesterday morning, I had a chance to sit in, and to his credit, Senator Bennett was on the phone, not a staffer. He has a lineage of having been the DPS superintendent in his past. And he spent about 45 minutes with the Federal Relations Network talking about his priorities. So that's kind of a lot distilled down. I'm not going to talk about all the breakouts and other sessions. There was a student section where students were asked questions, and there were some interesting statements that I do have to impart here. Some takeaways, and again, how times have changed, but the students said, teachers who get me to put my phone down are great teachers. Think about that. Teachers who have charisma and offer variety capture my attention. YouTube is a blessing, meaning it complements what is being taught in the classroom. Districts should consider giving days off to celebrate those holidays that might be meaningful to certain populations outside of the traditional ones. If you were designing a school of the future, what would it look like? I thought this was kind of insightful. Have an entrance exam for the students to determine how they learn, and have faculty who like to teach that way align with those students. I thought that was a very interesting comment. In an ideal state, that would be kind of interesting. There's a lot of wasted time in the classroom. When online, sometimes I'm able to quickly get my assignments done and move on to other things, kind of a self-paced type of approach. More efficient use of time needs to be looked at. And then some kids know what they want to do in life already, especially if they're going into a CTE program. Some subjects seem irrelevant to those kids. So could you align the school of the future to maybe a niche little population there? And then a very insightful comment from one kid is personal finance should be taught to every student. Shouldn't be an elective. And so I liked hearing that one, because my kids could have benefited from that. So again, lots, I'm giving you 50 pounds of oats in a 10-pound bag here, but the report's certainly available to anybody, and I'll offer the floor to Ms. Thompson, who was a key part of that trip.
Well, thank you. You did quite a good job giving the overview. I have attended the FRN for the past several years, and every time we go, Senator Bennett is one that we can always count on to show up in person, and previously Corey Gardner as well. So I am not surprised that he continues to do that. The one thing that I will share is we had a very dynamic keynote speaker. It was Dr. Adolph Brown, and he is a neuropsych that works with schools and shared his story, but his presentation was just captivating. The way he came in, the audience completely misjudged him. In fact, we thought somebody else up on the stage was Dr. Brown, and we didn't know who this person that looked like they may have come in from the DC homeless contingency was coming up the middle aisle, and he proceeded to deliver his speech. And his speech transformed from coming in oversized clothing to eventually being in a suit and leaving the stage in his doctoral cap and gown. It was phenomenal. So anyhow, one of the takeaways though was his speech about how we have to protect our mouths from our brains. As a lawyer, I think that's sage advice. But anyhow, going back to the IDEA funding, you did mention the 40% fully funding ambition. That was initially the commitment when it was initially authorized in 1975. We've never made it there, but where we are today is the closest we've ever been, and that's at a very grossly underfunded 15.75%. So to think about going from where we are at 15.75 to that 40% aspiration in 10 years, it seems very reasonable. And our most vulnerable students, our students with disabilities, are the ones we owe the most to, and they deserve the most. They deserve to have access and equal access to reach their potential as well. So in our meetings with our delegates, there are 3 right now from Colorado who have signed on in support. They're co-sponsors of the resolution or the Senate bill, and that's, well, it would just be the resolution. That's Representative Crow, Representative DeGette, and Representative Neguse. They have all signed on committing to this 10-year glide path to better fund IDEA. We respectfully asked Representative Perlmutter, Senator Hickenlooper. I assume in the conversation we made the same ask of Senator Bennett, as well as Representative Lamborn and Representative Buck. So I think we have a captive audience, but for anybody that still has additional political capital with our delegates, I would urge you to reach out and ask for them to support either the Senate bill or the House resolution that's currently pending. Thank you.
Mr. Gregory.
Just very quickly, I don't know. I'll just go ahead and give credit to Mr. Timby and Ms. Thompson in the group now, but I don't know if it was a coincidence. But this past Tuesday, so Tuesday of this week, the Village High School had a visit from one of Representative Lamborn's staffers. So I can only assume that that was connected to the visit that you guys just had out to DC to learn more about this, a different type of high school.
We did extend an invitation to visit any of our schools anytime with advance notice. I'm not sure if that's coincidence or whether that was catalytic. Yeah. I did forget to share during Senator Bennett's call yesterday, I did thank him for the support of our space economy and helping us hopefully build a pipeline of cybersecurity folks and others to support our military economy. So, and he was appreciative of that recognition. So.
Thank you, Mr. Temby. And I need to apologize to the rest of the board. You sent me that thing on Sunday, and I didn't get it out until today. So, and that is entirely my fault. And I apologize, board, that you got it so late. Thank you. Next up is a discussion about a provision addition to board policy EL 2.1 treatment of students. Mr. Salt.
Thank you, Mr. LaValle. This is a addition to a policy that I am pleased and excited to present.
If I may.
Yes.
Mr. Seclady, can you throw that up if possible? Thank you. So this is coming from a mini conversation that I've had over the past several months, and frankly, even broader than that, about concern of parents not having autonomy over medical decisions for their students. And so I know I feel strongly about parental rights. I feel strongly about parental consent, specifically in the medical realm. And what we see now, and this is happening on many different planes, is that we have valuable class time being taken up, discussing opinions, discussing trying to persuade students to take certain medical actions one way or the other. And many of these times are not making it to the parents' realm. And so I know that there is a large perception out there that this is purely a COVID-related bill, and I wanted to make sure that that is not true. It is a catalyst for this piece of policy coming at this time, but it is not the reason this policy is coming overall. This is purely a right that is given to parents and should be honored as such. With this, Mr. LaValle and I have spoken about this on multiple occasions over the past couple months. And so I was speaking with Ms. Thompson about this and the legal ramifications. She offered to send it through our policy review committee, to which I was more than happy to accept, and I appreciate you guys running through that and sending feedback. I received this feedback, and we actually discussed this policy
at a board work session back in January, and there were many concerns about emergency care. And what we said was that is not the intent of this policy. We do not want to stop emergency care from being given to a student. And so we added the provision at the very beginning that says absent emergency situations to make sure that teachers and staff are fully authorized, and there's no misnomer that emergency care should absolutely be given. Outside of that, everything else should go through the parents. It should be consent there. As we mentioned here, we are not at all trying to prevent the staff from sharing their opinions and with the parents. You as a district, we as a district are welcome to inform parents of preferred actions, but it is their right to choose whether or not that's what they want for their student. And so with that, that's kind of where this policy came from. I think I'll leave it there. Mr. LaValle, did you have anything you wanted to add before we open it up for questions?
No, we can open up for questions. And yes, Mr. Temby.
Well, I agree with the policy as amended here, particularly with the first three words, absent emergency situations. We did have quite a discussion about being agile when there's an emergency situation. People right there on the ground need to deem the severity of a medical situation. And so we're going to have to trust the people at the school level to make that decision. If somebody feels as though somebody made the wrong decision to send a kid with a compound fracture to an emergency room, then it's a whole different issue. But I will say, I've spent 26 years in this district, very focused on my parental rights. And while I understand there's been feedback and strong feelings about parental rights, mine were never violated. 26 years putting 5 kids through this district. So again, I'm not going to object greatly to this because I do believe in parental rights, but to me, this seems like a little bit of an overreach, but we've already had that discussion. So
I just want to read, I talked with Ms. Cloninger earlier today. She was not able to make it, and I said, feel free to send me any comments, and she sent me a text. I just want to read this. Is from Mrs. Cloninger. Excuse me. This is a knee-jerk reaction to anecdotal issues, and by buying into it, we appear to be playing politics. Parental control is the new hot button phrase, and we are better than reacting to it. Of course, parents have control of the decisions for their kids, and there is not one solid piece of evidence that supports anything but. We have the best teachers and staff in our district, and creating an environment of hand-holding or micromanaging will further denigrate the already low morale. We know teachers aren't medical experts, but they are also human and entitled to their own opinions, which they shouldn't be scared to express. We need to be really careful here that in our quest to protect these so-called parental rights, that we aren't infringing on the constitutional rights of our staff.
With all due respect, we should not infringe on the constitutional and the natural rights given to parents, and that's where I'm going to maintain this policy and why I believe that it's worthwhile.
So,
I was going to say, I have a couple that I wanted to specifically address from the policy review committee, and I appreciate you guys coming back with that. Much of the feedback, I realized that the piece, the draft that I sent Ms. Thompson did not have the initial amendment in there with the absent emergency situations. So I know a lot of the feedback that was provided was around emergency situations, CPR, AED, 911, et cetera. Again, that is not the intent of this edition, and so that's why we have that clause at the beginning to try to make it very clear that if this is an emergency situation, by all means, take care of the student first. And so I want to make sure that we're clear on that. There was a question brought up about the concussion protocols. And so I think that it was a great question to bring up. And I wanted to just mention that, and I believe Mr. Gregory, we had talked about this previously, that anyone playing sports signs some sort of a waiver of medical treatment. Is that true?
Yeah, we'll have to review it again to make sure it's a part of this. But yeah, there's anybody that's had a student participate in athletics know that there's additional, risk inherent risk, all those kind of things. And there is something in there about, providing medical treatment.
Yes, there is. It's very clear.
Yep.
Yes, that's good.
Sure. And so obviously at that point, the parents already consented to having treatment. So if the incident happens during sports, there's already consent to be able to provide treatment. I would venture a guess, although I know it's not going to be 100%, that many times where concussion protocols are coming into play, head injuries are not, I would probably classify those as emergency situations in most cases. When we're talking about head and neck areas, those are vital areas. Not to say that parents should not be informed. I know that that's going on. That's not not what I'm trying to imply by that.
So what I want to ensure is that the district gets a sense of what the board, and if we approve it, the board means by this and what we don't mean by it. I want to have healthy discussions on both sides. For instance, in health class, pros and cons of you name it, health-wise. We do not want, at least I don't want that to be infringed in any way, shape, or form. I want teachers to be free to discuss options. But I believe what we're saying is we don't want to be, look, you really ought to do this. You really ought not to do that. That's the realm. When I look at this, I think there's the realm of the school and there's the realm of the home. And what we're just codifying is, look, these medical, forgive me, I'm going to read it. Medical treatments, medical opinions, medical advice. That's the realm of the home, and it just seems fairly reasonable to me. And again, I think that in the not translation, what do we call it? The interpretation. I would encourage the district to say this does not mean we don't want discussions in health classes. This does not mean that we other scenarios. We thought about a lot of different scenarios. What could this impact? And we don't want it to impact, and again, Mr. Gray, you say this all the time, we want our kids, we don't want to teach them what to think, we want to teach them how to think. We want our kids to think and look at these medical issues, especially with COVID, right? There's been a whole lot of discussion about it. We're not trying to shut that down. We're just trying to say, look, discussions are great, but medical, saying, look, you really need to do this. That's the realm of the home. Am I being accurate there, Mr. Salt?
I would say so, and specifically around having both sides to those things. I've heard stories, and this is coming from lots of different sides of proselytizing in different directions. I don't want teachers telling my kids that if we're in math class, they need to be focused on math and not talking about these types of things. And so within the appropriate setting, having some discussion on both pros and cons on each side of those arguments, I think would be fine. Because again, we want to educate students. We want them to understand that there are differing opinions out there. We want them to understand how to differentiate and how to distinguish. That's part of the critical thinking and problem solving that we want each of our students to have. So by no means are we trying to limit that discussion in the appropriate setting with the appropriate context.
Any other? Yes, Ms. Cons?
Thank you. And thanks, Mr. Salt, for proposing this to us. I was in our work session when you first introduced this, I was concerned about a lot of legal ramifications too. So I appreciate the addition of absent emergency situations. And I'd love to ask Ms. Thompson, does this clause, those first three words, satisfy the full legal requirements for our district to address all immediate life-threatening emergency issues?
I think the short answer to that is no.
Okay.
But I've shared and I've advised, and so I will leave it at that.
Okay. Should I ask Mr. Salt at another time just for the advisement, or how we could clean it up?
Well, I think there's times under IDEA where there is medical information that is shared and weighed into the decisions. I also think that under our current Colorado statute, there's an age where children can consent to receive mental health treatment that could run afoul of this language, but that's already been shared.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. And And that is one of my points because we discussed at length. We started to come up with counselors, school counselors, and those issues. And so I was very open-minded. I was unsure of what this implied for those situations. But, you know, after long thought and discussion and hearing a lot of good feedback, I feel that counseling does fall under this realm of what you are presenting in a way, in a positive manner that most parents in our district agree with, which is that when a student approaches a counselor, which is a wonderful asset to have in our schools, that they can initiate conversations there. Parents should always be notified immediately when students are having an issue or requesting help. We want to partner. I mean, I don't even want to say we want to just partner with the parents, but we want that collaboration and that unifying presence of all these adults caring for the kids, but the parents are paramount in every discussion that would occur in a school setting, whether it's with a counselor or any given teacher. So I just think no situation supersedes parental authority, and we should explicitly support parental rights. Like you said, we want to keep conversations open, but the parents need to be involved in that because these are underage children and they are the parents before the districts. And then also with medical treatments, I support that part of your clause because there are, for any given medical service that we have, you know, dealt with in our district's history, those are offered throughout our city in a vast amount of places where students and families can receive care, and it's not in the public school purview to offer those at our district. That's it. Thank you.
My only last thought is, you know, this doesn't supersede state law, right? If state law says you can't do it, can't do it. Or if you can't prohibit, then we can't prohibit, even if we have a policy. So, any other thoughts, comments? We will. Mr. Gregory, did you?
Yeah, I would just say two things. One, so it doesn't end with this, right? You alluded to it earlier. There's, you know, the guise of policy governance. There's the next step of this would be the interpretation. So we will get together and develop interpretation. And I would say probably inside of that interpretation, we would consider, you know, other guiding statutes, whether it's state or federal law, whatever, that would probably become part of a clause or something inside of an interpretation. And then the other piece, and I'm not too sure, Ms. Thompson's it. I can't see her, but I know she's over there. We'd have to go through our administrative policies after we get the interpretation in place, go through administrative policies and make sure we have alignment across board policy and administrative policy, or at least not conflict between the two. And I'm not sure where we're at with that at this point. We'd have to probably review several policies around that. Those would be next steps.
And we will, typically this would be brought to consent, but we're not going to, I don't want to do it in consent. So we're going to actually talk. I don't know how long we're going to talk next time, but we will vote at the next meeting. Any other closing comments? All right. May 2022 Board of Education meeting date discussion. That's me. So the current board meeting dates in May are May 5th and May 19th. Okay. The 19th is, I believe, right after all the graduations, and traditionally we don't have that second meeting. And so what we are discussing and considering is to basically have one meeting and move it to, I guess, let's see, May 12th. Thank you. So it'd be a week later, and I believe that would be Bridget's graduation as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the plan. We discussed it. We don't think we're going to have too much in that meeting, and it just kind of makes sense. Graduations are awesome, they're wonderful, but they're exhausting. And the thought of having another board meeting on that Thursday is not real appealing, probably to anyone. So Is there any thought, any objections or concerns? How about that? Yeah, Mr. Timmy.
No objection. It just is referenced the date at which we decide the end of year school date. May, and the concern was May 12th might be a little bit late. Is there any reason, since we're mostly through snow season by late April, mostly, why we couldn't make that decision to the second meeting in April? Or are there other operational issues I'm missing, Mr. Gregory?
It's a tough one because, as Dr. Smith said earlier, what we don't know, the late starts are the question. We can probably have a pretty good idea, but once we lock in that date, then we need to make sure that I don't want that influencing my decision on whether we're doing a late start or not. That needs to be based on the conditions outside, not whether we have time left in our calendar or something like that, which that's perfect. That's 100% transparency there. I don't want that to be there, but I think we could probably move it up. The snow days are 2 hours at a time, right? That's different than a full day. So I think we're talking about, the difference of a day versus the difference of a week or something like that if we were to announce it in April. Dr. Smith, do you have anything to add?
Not really, but just to remind that when we do have an e-learning snow day, we are starting 2 hours later. So that's, again, looking at those 2 hours, adding up over time with every one of those e-learning and or late starts. Right.
I also remember shoveling 21 inches of snow on April 23rd one year. So
part of the reason that this whole idea, kind of this, what some folks might think, discombobulated snow day plan, but part of that for secondary students saying that the first 2 days were actual, snow days, were treated as closure, no e-learning, no anything, but anything after that would be remote learning, was to try to move up or advance a little bit the day when we could determine when the last day of school would be. So that was part of it. So I'd like to hope that does play out, and we'll do our best to come up with something prior to May.
Ms. Cons?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just since you mentioned that this happens pretty frequently, that you move to change to one May meeting, is it something we want to look at changing our policy wherein it says only in December and July we only have one meeting?
I brought this up 3 years ago,
Okay.
and I don't remember the answer, but it got nowhere. So I'm not opposed to looking at that. In fact, we're going to talk about that in just a second. Any other discussion on? Are we? I don't think.
Just,
go ahead.
With the unavailability of Clune Arena and then the pandemic, we moved to an outdoor June graduation, and then we moved to the end of May at predominantly D20 Stadium, with the exception of TCA. So that did allow us to accommodate 2 meetings both those years. In future years, if we stay with the same cadence of graduations being in May, I don't think it makes any sense to try to wedge in.
Mr. Salt.
Those were all my comments for the next agenda item that has gotten brought up here.
So, Ms. Allen?
Yes, just one other thought, just to keep in mind. When I'm sharing the proposed budget in May, typically around a May 21st, the second meeting, it's still a stretch at that point that we have per pupil revenue amounts that are more fixed with the legislative session ending. So just a week earlier, probably a higher likelihood that that number may not be the final number that we look at. We'll just give the best we can at that time.
Yep, great point. Thank you. Okay, so my sense is we're good with moving that one meeting to the 12th and not having just having the one meeting on the 12th. All right, Board of Education meeting schedule for the 2022-2023 calendar year. I think, did you all see that? Do you have a copy of that? Pretty straightforward. Yeah. Mr. Sacalidi, can you pull that up? Again, 1 in July, 1 in December, yes, 2 in May. Pretty straightforward. Any questions or comments on that? Go ahead, Mr. Salt.
My comment was, do we want to have 2 meetings in May?
I don't care.
That's good. That's got to be graduation week again, isn't it?
Yeah, probably the 18th.
Well, one thing just to keep in mind is this whole graduation discussion is really contingent upon when the Air Force Academy also has their graduations, because I don't know how many years ago, Dr. Smith, but the Air Force Academy kind of committed that they would always have it the week prior to or after Memorial Day, which kind of made it easier on us for planning, because for a while it would depend on and then who's speaking and when they, there's a whole lot that goes into their graduation. So, those dominoes fall. So some of ours is based on their decision. Now, they've kind of solidified, I don't know how long that lasts, but that their graduations are going to be more consistent there. Am I saying that right, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the week before Memorial Day is when they want to have all of their celebrations for graduation. So then we would go the week before that.
To accommodate 2 meetings, we could cancel all graduations. So something to consider.
We could just move them to different locations, different times, all that stuff.
My thought is I don't see really an advantage to changing the 2023 schedule now. That's my only thought. Yeah, let's wait until a year from now. That's still that's still 5 months early, if everybody's okay with that. So, okay. Was our business this evening focused on activities that promote and honor our mission statement, our belief statements, and our global end statements that reminds us that all students have the knowledge, skills, and character necessary for successful transition to the next level upon graduation, will be fully prepared for success? We have 19 still around. This meeting is adjourned.